Oh,
Public hearing or citizens'
He wants to
comments?
speak.
About the trash stuff?
that's going to be right.
Citizens' comments.
Oh, the trash?
There you
Is
go.
that a separate one?
Public hearings are
That's
about
on Durham Farms.
request to review, approve a revised preliminary development plan.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Are we running? If y'all could join me, please stand. We're going to begin as we typically do our meetings, and that's going to be with a prayer and pledge. First, I need to welcome you to the May 14th, 2019 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And tonight, I've asked Alderman Eddie Robertson to lead us in the prayer, and I appreciate him very much in doing that, and then I'll lead us in the pledge. Alderman Robertson, please go ahead.
First of all, would like to say before I lead us in prayer that I'm a prime example that prayer works. The sickness that I've been through, I give all the praise to the Lord for bringing me through it, for the support of my family, and for the well wishes and the prayers of this group. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. You are so good to us. Every day we see the beauty of nature. We feel good health. We see our friends and family living in this wonderful city, and we just thank you. We thank you, dear Lord, for each alderman and the mayor sitting here tonight. Dear Lord, help us to come together and reason together as the prophet Isaiah said. Help us to work together for the good of our city and help our city to grow and to be prosperous. Bless all of our officials, dear Lord, not only at the city level, but at the state level and the county level and at the national level, because we need you, oh God. Now bless again this meeting. Let it be fruitful and help us to have wisdom in all that we think, say, and do. We ask these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Alderman Robertson, thank you so much. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Good question. I entertain a motion to accept our agenda. We have a motion. Alderman Sprouse.
If we could.
Hold on, do we get a second?
Sure.
Alderman Skidmore. Thank you.
Second.
Alderman Sprouse, go ahead.
If we could, as a courtesy to the bidders, and then also probably as an insurance policy against us making another late hour mistake, could I want to ask that item I be moved to the very top of ordinances and resolutions.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor of moving item I to the first item under ordinance and resolutions, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We have a motion and a second to accept our agenda as amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. We have an agenda. First thing that we have next is presentations, and we have a presentation from Kraft CPAs on our audit. So Ken and Julie, if y'all could come on up. Thank you all.
If you want to come over here. All right, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and present the results of the June 2018 audit to the board. My name is Ken Youngstead with Kraft CPAs. I'm here with Julie Evans, our senior manager that works on the engagement as well. So there are two documents that we've presented to you all, and what we will plan to do is to go over each of these documents. We met with the Finance Committee just a bit ago and went over some of these documents in more detail. As I go through the presentation tonight, please feel free to stop me as we go along and ask any questions that you may have. I think that might be the best way to go through. The financial statement itself is around 80 pages, and so if we go through the entire financial and go back to other items, it may just be easier to ask the questions as we go along, if that's okay with you all. So just a quick summary of the results of the audit, which is through our communications letter to the board. We have an engagement letter that is with our firm with the City of Hendersonville and with the State of Tennessee's Comptroller's Office. And so that engagement letter was, signed back in, June 2018, and is a notable part of our contract of services that we're to provide to you. In terms of accounting policies and procedures, practices, there is one thing that I'll mention to you that was a new policy, an accounting policy that was adopted during this fiscal year that we audited, related to post-employment benefits for retirees, related to things like health insurance. It's called the OPEB plan, other post-employment benefits. So during 2018, the GASB required us to adopt that standard. And what we've done is we've got a June 2017 adjustment to the opening balances for the audit for this year. And that opening balance adjustment is about $2.5 million of an increase in a liability for the OPEB benefits. Most cities that have these types of benefits have seen an increase in that liability, so that's not necessarily unusual. But wanted to just make you aware of that because that's the most notable change in accounting policies that we had for this year's audit. We will show you, or I'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at the financial statements. Otherwise, we didn't identify any other significant or unusual transactions or have any disagreements, things like that. We issued the audit in late April 2019, which is a delay from when you've seen that in years past. So from a difficulty standpoint, we just mentioned that there was a capital asset schedule that the finance team was working on. That was the primary open item that caused the delays in the audit. Primarily, the reasons for the delay, it was a uniquely challenging year, I think, from a turnover standpoint with that department. And so literally the capital asset schedule on your financial statements, on the entity-wide financial statements, it represents about $63 million of assets that are on the balance sheet. So it's a notable number. It's a big piece of our audit in terms of the financial statement as a whole. And so once that was presented to us, we were able to complete the audit and have it issued. Otherwise, most of our field work was done back in late 2018, around the same timeline that you'd seen in years past. So any questions about that? And then going through the rest of the letter here, there's a communication that we have or information. There are a couple of findings that we had in the audit that we'll talk about when we get to that part. So there's a mention of any recommendations that we might have. So we'll cover those in just a moment. Otherwise, this letter just has a listing of your primary estimates, some adjustments that we had to the original trial balance, things that are more routine as we go through the audit. So any questions that you all have on the communication letter to the board? Okay. So I'll move over to the financial statement. Okay. And as we go into the financial statement, if you go about 10 pages in, we have our audit opinion for the June 2018 year. And on the second page of that, we have our opinion where we say the financial statements present fairly.
Give us page number.
Okay, that is page 2. And if you are looking at a paper copy, that's going to be down, it's probably about 10 pages in. Page 2 is our audit opinion.
Top of the page says opinions.
Yes, correct. So we say the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. That is a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, if you will, so that's the opinion that you want. We do have an emphasis of a matter that relates to the OPEB liability that I had mentioned earlier related to the post-employment benefits. So because that is a unique item that was adopted this year, we just have an emphasis paragraph related to that. And then otherwise, this is a standard report. If you look at page 4 through 14, there is a management's discussion and analysis section. The full financial statement is a lengthy document. I think if you were to look at pages 4 through 14, it's a good summary of the results of the activities and things that took place during the fiscal year. There are a few summaries and graphs and comparisons with prior year information. So again, just a good summary for you all to take a look at if you have interest in looking at that. I'll flip over to page 15 of the audited statement. This is your entity-wide financial statement. And you'll see over, on the asset side, so looking at the top of page 15, maybe about a third of the way down the page, you'll see that's where the $63 million of capital assets are listed. Again, that was one of the items that the item that we were waiting for to complete the audit. It's a schedule that's really only presented on the entity-wide financials. I think as you all manage from an operational standpoint during the year, you don't necessarily see this summary presented like this. So it's really just done from, at year end in accordance with a statement that's under generally accepted accounting principles. So I think that's important to note. The other item that I'd like to mention to you, if you look at the liabilities section, you'll see the $3.2 million that is the net other post-employment benefits liability. That is the new standard that we adopted last year. That number was around $700,000. The change, and when you're computing this liability now, there's a series of actuarial tables. It's really forecasting what your present value of your total payments that you will make for retirees, a projected amount. And so that, that balance is based on the actuarial calculations that go into that. So that's a little different than what you've seen from prior years. All cities have had to adopt that new standard this year, so that's been a pretty big change, to be honest with you.
One thing we did note in the Finance Committee is that's not a number that you're going to pay out at once. That's not a liability like your bonds or other debt. It's more of a pay-as-you-go basis. So every year when you pay your retiree premiums is how that liability is going to get funded. So I know it's a big number, but don't be as concerned that that's going to all come out of the city's budget at one time.
Correct. Your payments will be just like they have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. You'll still continue to fund it the same way.
Okay, if you look at page 17, this is where you'll see your governmental funds, your general fund, and some of the other solid waste fund capital projects and so forth. We spent a little time during the Finance Committee meeting talking about this statement. So some highlights. Probably the biggest thing that you may want to to focus on is under the fund balance section. You'll see items that are designated by different departments, things like that. You have down there at the bottom an unassigned, undesignated fund balance in your general fund of almost $4 million. That's something that we had some discussion about during the Finance Committee meeting. So
I think that's typically an item that you all ask us about as part of the audit is how is that fund balance and how is it in relation to maybe what expectations or best practices would be. And we had some further discussion in the Finance Committee. I know you all have a policy to try to build that up over time. And I think what we had found was best practices were usually somewhere between 15 and 25% of your annual budget expenditures. So I think you all are working towards that. You're a little low right now, but that's just a goal to work towards.
Right. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but that is kind of a number that you may be thinking about. Yes.
Alderman Cunningham.
Am I on?
You on?
Okay. I just wanted you to explain that that general fund balance does not include certain other funds, like the state street aid funds.
That is correct.
And
So there's separate columns for each one of those funds. The number that Ken had originally pointed out had to do with the unassigned, undesignated fund balance in the first column, which is your general fund. You've got about $5 million of a fund balance in your capital projects fund, which are unspent bond proceeds to use for future projects. And then in your non-major governmental funds column, that consists of your state street aid money, your drug fund, and a little bit of forfeiture fund. So really, the bulk of that money is your state street aid.
So I
fund
just
at the
don't
end
want
of the
people
year.
to think that's all that's the only money that we have at the
Correct.
city.
There is,
And we
there
have
are,
additional money, plus the stormwater utility fund
will be
will be
new
a
one.
separate fund as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Next year,
so
it will be a new
in
fund.
addition to the solid waste, the capital projects fund, the debt service fund, the State Street Aid Fund will also
Mm-hmm.
have an additional $2 to $3 million in another fund that has already been
For special
collected.
projects.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Very welcome. Go ahead, guys.
Okay, if you flip to page 19, you'll see a statement of revenues and expenditures and the changes in fund balances that break things out by your general fund, solid waste, capital projects, debt service, and non-governmental funds. And so, total revenues of $44.8 million, total expenditures, which includes some capital outlays of about $5.5 million. Total expenditures are $49.5 million. You'll see some of the capital outlays notes issued during the fiscal year of $8.69 million that are listed there as other financing sources. And as was mentioned, some of those are still, unspent, part of the fund balance. So any questions on that fund, or that page? During the Finance Committee meeting, we know one thing that there was some discussion about. If you look at page 22, you'll see the Solid Waste Fund. Total revenues in that fund of almost $5.1 million. Total expenditures of $5.9 million. So a use of funds of $845,000 with the Solid Waste Fund. This page also has your budgeted amounts in there. It came in a little ahead of budget, but a total use of funds of $845,000. So there was some discussion about that. We also talked on page 24 about the proprietary fund, the golf course, just looking at cash flows, the inflows and outflows from the golf course activity. The golf course had an operating loss of $116,000, of which approximately $70,000 of that was depreciation, so not all of that loss was cash, but they still had some cash loss in the golf course fund. And as we go through, okay, there's a series of footnotes. I won't go over the footnotes in any great detail. I will give you a couple of highlights, but if there's something that you have a question about, please, that I skip over, please ask. Page 37 has a summary of your capital assets, starting on page 7, starting on page 37, note 3. And that goes on for a couple of pages between your governmental funds, governmental activities, and then business type activities. Page 42 has a listing of your long-term debt and other obligations that are payable. And then page 52 relates to your OPEB plan that we had discussed earlier. You'll see on page 52 there's a balance at June 30, 2017, the opening balance, so to speak, that's $3.19 million of a post-employment benefits liability. That's related to this accounting standard change. Last year that number was $800,000.
Alderman Roberts.
Yes, Mayor.
I have a question on page 42.
Yes.
This concerns the bond issued by the IDB. you state that as of June the 30th, the outstanding principal amount of all bonds issued by the IDB is not determinable. Can you explain that?
I think because they don't go on the city's books and they're not on the IDB books, it would have to do with how many bonds they'd facilitated at that point. I don't know.
However, we do know the aggregate amount, correct?
I believe
55.
so.
There.
Yes, I
55
think
billion.
aggregately there was 55.5 million that's been issued over time, but that was the full amount when they were issued or facilitated by the IDB. They're not responsible for the collection of the payments on those bonds.
Thank you.
Julie? Ken?
Okay. So going back to the page 52, I believe it was, that's where the OPEB liability is stated, and you can see some of the actuarial assumptions that were used in that calculation. And as Julie had mentioned earlier, it doesn't change your payment obligation, but it is calculating basically a fully absorbed estimate of what you will pay, based on your employees today who may retire and receive some of those benefits over time. So, okay. And then as we go into the supplemental information, the state requires some information in greater detail than what is in the main financial statement. I'll refer you to page 70. And you'll see a schedule of revenues, and on page 71, a schedule of expenditures in greater detail for some of the different departments and items. So this is something the state asks for. And page 74, you'll see a schedule of your property taxes and the collections. Page 75, disposal fees that are receivable. And then page 76, this schedule relates to the long-term debt requirements, repayment requirements that you anticipate from 2019 on to 2030. So you can see when those debt payments will become due. Under the other reports section, this is starting on page 78. Because our audit is conducted under governmental auditing standards, we also have a report that we issue related to internal controls and related items. We do have a couple of recommendations. This is a clean report, but do have a couple of recommendations that are included starting on page 80 and 81. As was stated early on, obviously our audit was completed later than usual. One of the requirements for generally accepted accounting principles is to have things in place to report timely, and so we had extensions that we had filed with the comptroller's office, and then there were other accounts that we had some adjustments to. So we've got just a generalized financial reporting finding. Again, I think what you'll find on page 81 at the top of the page is management's response, which is an important element of this. It talks about 2018's year being unique from a turnover standpoint, just the resources available to, to take care of some of these issues. So this recommendation or management's response on page 81 talks a little bit about the plan. And you now have an assistant finance director in place, and I know you all are working hard on getting the finance department fully staffed from that standpoint. So there's that recommendation. There's also a recommendation that we have about adherence to internal policies and procedures. There were a few items that we were asked to look into related to personnel policies or other things that, expenditures that are made. So we do have a recommendation here to simply, if there is a deviation from something that you might have in your administrative policies, that you just document, better the reasons for some of those deviations. So we talked a little bit in the Finance Committee about some of those details. So you can see management's response here, just acknowledgement of the importance to that. So,
Okay, Julie, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
great.
Thank you for your time earlier, and thank you for your time here.
Thank you.
So, and thank you for all your time in the past year.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Julie. Julie's right there. Next presentation. So some of you may have noticed everything going on at the senior center, and
It's a war zone
but it's getting better.
by the day.
So, yeah. So I want to read a little bit, and then I'm going to ask Julie to speak a little bit. Whereas the population of seniors 65 and older is increasing dramatically and will make up 20% of America's total population by the year 2030, and the city of Hendersonville is committed to engaging and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers who offer a brighter future with greater independence, dignity, and more choices for Americans who are living longer, healthier lives. And whereas we acknowledge the importance of taking part in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being, no matter your age, and whereas the city of Hendersonville can enrich the lives of individuals of every age by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living by involving older adults in community planning, events, and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to learn, work, and volunteer, which is very much what Julie does. Now, therefore, I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee, do proclaim May 2019 to be Older Americans Month, and I urge every resident to take time during this month to recognize and honor the older adults and their service to the community. So thank you very much, Julie, what you do. If you will, please introduce yourself so everybody knows exactly what you do, and feel free to talk a little bit about some of the programs y'all have.
Sure, thank you. Thank you all. My name is Julie White, and I'm the Executive Director of the Senior Center here in Hendersonville. We have come a long way in the last 4 years. Many of you who have been here for a while understand what I say when I say that. And we, thanks to Keith in the planning department and Grant, we have a grant that, and I want to make sure I say this correctly, Community Block Development Grant. I get the letters mixed up sometimes. That was written a couple of years before Mayor Cleary came into office, and then he got the money, and now they are working on making it a reality. And it is approximately $500,000. There is going to be a beautiful new facade to the building. There will be new parking, a new parking structure, not a structure, but structure in the parking lot because there is none right now. And we have approximately 1,000 members. We have 26 health and wellness activities weekly. And when I say that, I mean that dreaded word, exercise. But it's fun, and we don't compete with any of the churches or any of the fitness clubs or anything of that nature, because what we do is geared toward the senior citizen. And we are working on some things for our center to broaden that. When I say senior citizen, the government says when you're 50, you become a senior citizen, and do not throw anything at me because I am just the messenger. However, it is true, and I fall in that category, unfortunately. But we have a great group of folks, and you know that 100 people a day that are moving to Middle Tennessee that we've all been hearing about for the last 3 or 4 years? Well, a lot of those people that are moving here are bringing their moms and their dads and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles, and we have a problem on our hands because we don't know where we're going to put all these people when they do reach that age. We are looking to possibly change our focus, not away from senior citizens, but to garner a new group, a younger demographic of older Americans. Because what's going to happen if we don't is we're going to wake up one day and all of those that we love dearly now today are going to have passed away, and we won't have any members in our senior center anymore because we're all working longer, and I don't have time for that. I do this, I've got that, I do my grandkids, I blah, 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 blah. Everyone has an excuse. We don't want it to be an excuse. We want you to come there and enjoy the offerings that we give you, and it's only $2 a week. I know where you can't even go to McDonald's and get anything for $2 anymore. So, but if you guys have any questions about anything, you are welcome to stop by. We have what I call rolling blackouts. We're rolling closings because of construction. It's supposed to be finished, I think, Keith, am I wrong, mid-June? We hope. But it has just been wonderful, and I appreciate so much all of you and what you have done to facilitate this and the planning department, and we thank you.
Thanks so much, Sheila.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next, I want to read about Police Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress of the United States of America has designated the week of May 12th through 18th, 2019 to be dedicated as National Police Week, and May 15th of each year to be Police Memorial Day. And whereas law enforcement officers are guardians of life and property, defenders of the individual right to be free people, warriors of the war against crime, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and whereas the city of Hendersonville desires to honor the valor, service, and dedication of its police officers, I therefore, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the city of Hendersonville, do proclaim May 15th, 2019 as Police Memorial Day. And I call upon all citizens of this community to honor and show our sincere appreciation for the police officers of this city by deed, remark, and attitude, and express our thanks to our police officers who are willing to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, to guard us and our loved ones, our property, and a government against all those who would violate the law. And I further request that all flags of the city of Hendersonville be flown at half-staff on May 15th, honoring Police Memorial Day. Last night, we had a memorial service for police officers, not just Jody and James and Richard and, who am I forgetting? Not just our police officers that have passed in line of duty, but for all police officers across the country in the past year and all those across the county since we first had police forces and sheriff's departments in Hendersonville. Let me say, we do that memorial service well. We do it very, very well and honor the people that have protected us for a long, long time. And Chief, I very much appreciate what you and your officers have been doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Scott Denton. Scott, if you could come on up, and I know that you have a presentation ready to go. Scott is the Executive Director of Historic Rock Castle. Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Scott Denton. I am with Historic Rock Castle, and I'm here primarily to say thank you to the Board of Aldermen and the Mayor for funding for the activities and programs that we put on at Rock Castle, and particularly to thank you for your support of the upcoming performance of the Nashville Symphony by the Lake at Rock Castle, which this year will be taking place on Tuesday, June 11th. I think I have a video, but Kay, I'm not sure how to make it happen.
Just hit the go.
Go?
Take the mouse,
All right.
hit this.
There we go.
You do have a video.
Thank you. I'd like to say I produced it myself, but I didn't. I just know how to click the button. This is a community-wide partnership. We are delighted to have the symphony back this year. This is the third year that they're coming to Rock Castle, which is somewhat unprecedented for community concerts. And we do it in partnership with everyone in this town and in the county. We work in partnership with the Sheriff's Office, with the Police Department, Sumner County Schools, the junior ROTC cadets at Hendersonville High School do the color guard for us. And of course, we get some funding directly from Sumner County Tourism as well as the mayor and aldermen. I just wanted to come out tonight and thank you and encourage you to come and join us on Tuesday, June 11th.
Scott, you and Sam and your staff do a wonderful, wonderful job on your board also, and this is becoming a focal point for Henderson. We appreciate it very, very much what you do out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a public hearing. This is to hear comments on a request by WFC Durham Holdings the 7th GP to approve a revised preliminary development plan for Durham Farms. This property is located on Drakes Creek Road as identified as Sumner County Property Tax Map 138. Parcels 012.03 and 014.00. We have 4 people who are signed up. Paul Town, if you could come up and give us your address and go ahead and speak.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Paul Town. I reside at 208 Catalina Way in Hendersonville, part of the Durham Farms community. I would like to start with a personal thank you to you, Mr. Mayor, and the balance of the board for your service to our community. It's greatly appreciated, and it's a wonderful community to live in. Freehold Communities has proposed changes to the preliminary development plan for Durham Farms. These changes have passed the Planning Committee, been worked on together with city staff, and passed this board's first reading in previous meetings. I'm in full support of these proposed changes and would like to briefly comment on its 4 key principles or points. First, through changes in fees, the developer is committing to a financial contribution of approximately $675,000 to the improvement of the intersection entering Durham Farms. As you know, this is a dangerous 5-way intersection, very difficult to navigate, already the result of numerous accidents, and these improvements are sorely needed. This funding is going to help get that intersection fixed and get them done in this city's tight budget time. Second, as you're aware, the preliminary development plan as it was originally proposed included the closure of Avant Road, or what is now referred to as Avant Road. When this committee previously reviewed that plan closure, there were concerns about that closure's impact on fire response time, on access to the community park and rugby fields that are planned and currently under development, and in the potential increased traffic on Drakes Creek Road through the Durham Farms community. Working with city staff, working with the residents of Durham Farms, and working with numerous traffic consultants, this plan now includes changes to that original proposal. The Avant Road is going to be changed, or is proposed to be changed to a designated park road with a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, adding signage as such that it is a park road, and adding traffic calming strips and a radar-controlled speed sign in that area to control the speed that has become ridiculous on that road. In addition, on Drakes Creek Road through Durham Farms, 2 radar speed signs are proposed to be added, along with crosswalks at the 2 community parks to hopefully include slowage of traffic through the community. These changes do directly impact and favorably address the concerns that have been previously raised. Third, the development will be enhanced by the addition of a beautiful veterans park and a dog park. Both of these will be an addition to what is already a premier Hendersonville community. Finally, the developer is proposing minor changes to lot sizes in a section of the community in responses to changes in demand, changes in demographics, and changes from current market assessments. These changes will help ensure the continued timely development of a community, which is a benefit both to Durham Farms and to the Hendersonville city as a whole. In conclusion, after a 37-year career with a Fortune 50 company, I retired approximately 2 years ago as their CIO. One of the many things I learned throughout that career is to quickly react to changing demographics, to changing demand and to changes instituted through your customers. Without quick course correction, you're going to miss the market. In my opinion, the developer is doing exactly that, and they are doing it in a way that is not only beneficial to our community, but beneficial to the city as a whole. I urge your continued support. Thank you.
Paul, thank you so much. Larry Greider, if you could come up, give your address, and go ahead and speak.
My name is Larry Greider. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me a chance to voice my concerns about the Durham Farms. It seems like a few years ago, next to Long Hollow Point, there were going to be estate homes placed next to Long Hollow Point. Most all the homes in Long Hollow Point are 1 acre plus lots, single-family homes. Now they're telling us that it's going to be multifamily, duplexes, and townhouses that are going to be going in next to Long Hollow Point. I think if that was presented initially, that Long Hollow Point would have stood strongly against it. We didn't stand strongly against it because there were going to be estate homes. Now the plan has changed. It's almost like a bait and switch. It's like we get enough momentum, then we'll change our plan and the city will approve it. Well, as far as the road construction, I feel like that should have been the developers on his table when he first started the development. Those roads were there. He saw how it was. He knew it was going to be a problem. He should have already had that put in to his development plan. Thanks for the Veterans Park and the dog park. But the houses that are going in next to me, and I'm probably impacted the most of anyone at Long Hollow Point, because my house is at the end of Buchanan Circle, and my side yard is like 50 feet. Everyone else up Sterlingshire is their backyard. So they have probably 150 to 200 feet before they reach the property line. What I'm proposing is that the multifamily homes, since they're changing their plan to match the market, why don't they move them to the center of the development, which would give the seniors and the retirees a closer access to the clubhouse and their businesses that they're going to develop in the Durham Farms. And if they're able to sell the houses toward the front of the subdivision, which are single-family homes, why can't those homes be placed in lieu of the multifamily homes? And it would be a win-win situation. The people in Long Hollow Point would feel like they won because they got single-family homes next to them, and Durham Farms would only have to move them to the center of the development. That would give them greater access to their businesses and to the clubhouse. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Greider, thank you very much. Rich Michalowski, Lombardi Drive. Rich, did I pronounce your name correctly this time?
Michalowski, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Richard Michalowski. I live at 104 Lombardi Place, Durham Farms. First of all, I want to thank you for all you're doing for the city. You're doing your best, in my opinion. I'm not blowing any kind of smoke. I'm just telling how it is. If I don't like someone, I don't like someone. But I ain't going to talk around your back. There's A or B or Rich don't know. And that's how I am. And I want to support this development. I researched it. I could have moved any place in Hendersonville. But I researched it, and I know the 6 builders, and I moved into 1 out of 6. I'm not selling out for Dries, but that's how I want one. I checked it out. I did history lessons, Yeah, I'm down in history as a Vietnam veteran, but I checked this out and I said, I'm going to go for this because Durham Farms is really unusual. When I lived in Westmoreland, I had to travel to Lafayette to go to Walmart, 18 miles. Try taking your grandkids that far and then take them to Wally World. Hello. No. Now I'm far enough out where I can call it country, but I still enjoy the Hendersonville city life. Everything's close. If I want a hamburger, like I need it, but anyway. And everything is close, but I'm out. And I'm blessed for your support. There's not too many developers these days that will give you all this. He's willing to do all this. Somebody wants something for something. You pat my back, I want yours. But he's doing this. No one is perfect these days. He could have drawn the most perfect picture there was. There's only one person perfect, God. People make mistakes, but he's coming up and stepping up to the plate. And this is what I like about the man, and I like about the development, and what I like about Hendersonville. And the only thing I'm asking from y'all is, please support him. He's coming down with this Avant Road. I live right on the corner of Lombardi and Avant. We just had another accident on Avant. It's a construction truck going around the other day, found a concrete truck. Well, where does the van go? Into the creek. But it looked like it was fishing because the Latinos pushed the van out and they went on their merry way. So they didn't call no police or anything, finally. Okay? And I looked at it, my cameras picked it up. I said, here we go again, coming around that corner. At least it'll be 15 miles an hour. And I hope and I know the Hendersonville police will be out there because they've been putting out there for using all their people to slow down these speeders. And it was like a field day. Chief sent some PD out there. I watched from my back porch on Levant. Man, they're pulling everybody over. They had 2 radar guns. Boom, over, boom, over. But they had a line up there. And people had to wait. They're late for work. Yeah. They were late. Their Russian didn't help them any. But anyway, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for what you've done for the city. I want to thank the fire department for how they discussed Avant Road and Drakes Creek Road. I want to thank Chief and the whole entire department. They wore different uniforms than I did. Mine was green. But we're all in the same thing. And thanks for being in Hendersonville. I support Bill. And God bless the USA.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. Gary Woodward, Ashington Circle.
I got closer this time. I was going to get up and say the shortest 2 words you've heard all night, no comment. But let me elaborate and take it a little further. I can't add to what you've already heard before and make any sense with any good additions because it's all been good comments. The single word I could say is this developer is bringing value to the development and to the city. I live there, so I'm a vested owner in the property. If he isn't going to help me with his plan, then I get hurt. But everything centers back around to what he's putting on the table, and he's responsive. This developer is actually trying to bring in the residents and bring in everybody he can, and the city, bringing in the city departments to make this thing work for us, the residents, and for you, the city. Thank you for your support, and I hope you vote for it and let this thing go through. Thank you.
Gary, thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the 18/23/2019 meeting minutes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes from April 23rd, 2019 as presented, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. And now we have citizen comments. Citizen comments are a little bit different than our public hearing. A couple of things I mentioned. Public comment should be limited to 5 minutes per individual. That time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are be directed to me, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for office shall not be allowed. Stephen Puckett, Sanders Ferry Road.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Stephen Puckett. I reside at 228 Sanders Ferry Road, apartment A21, and I guess I'll start off the trash talk tonight. I think we all learned a great lesson last meeting that we probably shouldn't be taking any votes between 3 and 4 a.m. or at least make sure that law enforcement does a sobriety check on us to make sure we're still coherent. That being said, one of the things that when it comes to changes, especially the major changes that we're discussing with our trash contract, one of the things that happens is that these type of changes typically occur in about a 10-year cycle, where your contracts run 5 years, and your first 5 years are built on gathering what your specs are going to be and getting to the point where you can have bids. Then your second set of 5 years is where you're going to get your public input, and then about year 2 or year 3 in that second 5 years is when you make your decision. Because typically with a trash contract or any type of contract related to trash, you want to have that decision at least have a 2-year to 3-year acclimation period built in so that people can get used to the adjustments. In fact, our current contract, it was put forward that we right now have a 70-30 when it comes to people utilizing backdoor service versus curbside. Typically, if you're going to make a change from backdoor service to curbside, you want that reversed, and you want it a little bit closer to probably 80, where people are already at curbside. So what I'm going to ask you to do is what you did last meeting, and that is to continue with what you have for now, but with a commitment to make sure that the three major issues you have, which is backdoor service versus curbside, twice a week versus once a week, and then the recycling issue as well, are all resolved either in year 2 or year 3 of this next contract. That way, when the contract comes up at the end of the 5 years, the only thing you're talking about is price, which is where you really need to be with that. And this is especially going to be useful since we do have a mayor's race in 2020, and that will allow us to really get strong feedback along to supplement what we've already gotten from our citizen committee. The second thing I'll talk about tonight is that I do want to stress something from last meeting in regards to the city administrator. So it had been mentioned that home rule as an option, that would complicate an already complicated process to a point that you think things are frustrating now. With changes, it would be even more so. Right now, we have a general law charter that is based out of Title VI of the TCA, and that means that, and the idea of the general law charters when they were created was so that when a city comes up, say DBAs like Hendersonville may be looking at, then we ask the state legislature to make that change in the general law so that if another city comes behind us and say, Gallatin comes behind us and says, we want to go the same way Hendersonville did, then they don't have to go back to the state legislature and ask for that same change, because the idea actually sprung from, I think it was 5 cities, our NTAS rep might remember this, 5 cities, 5 years in a row, came to the state legislature and asked for the exact same change.
Stephen, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. So what we have to do is we have to ask either as a board or as citizens, our state reps, to make the change in the general law so that we are able to have the options that we need to best serve our city. And so that's just for informational purposes, and thank you.
Stephen, thank you. Deborah Floyd, Southburn Drive.
Mayor Clary, Alderman, gentlemen, ladies. I am on my name is Deborah Floyd, 305 Southburn Drive in Ward 6. I was asked to be on the Environmental and Recycling Committee by my alderman, and I was very happy to do this, along with 5 other people from their wards. We met over the winter and spring. We were very diligent in looking at different cities, our size, our city with what we had as far as backdoor pickup, the cost, all the costs involving tipping fees, which this was totally new to me, didn't know anything about tipping fees. I just knew we paid $26, $27 a month, which I think is a bargain. When I went into this committee, I was the only person who did backdoor pickup. Everybody else was totally against it. They took it for various reasons, whether to be nice to the garbage men or because it was the right thing to do or everybody else does it on my street. I was the only one, and I fought and went in saying, I'm not giving up my backyard pickup. I've lived in this house for 45 years. My driveway is up a hill. I do not want to give that up. At the end of the committee, with all of the information we had, I said, I'm wrong. I will vote with the others, and it was a unanimous vote that with all the cost, with all the modifications that could be done for elderly and handicapped, you request and you can have your backyard pickup. I don't think that's been explained to a lot of the citizens in this. I don't even know that you knew that there was a committee and that we voted and had a recommendation for you. Do you? Did you get our recommendations? You didn't? You did. But you didn't get our recommendation. We had a formal recommendation to you that was supposed to be submitted to each and every one of you. Ms. Barnes was on the committee with us. Excuse me. I'm excited because I'm upset. You should have known this. We didn't do this because we were getting paid for it. We did it because we are citizens who want to better our county, our city. Why did you not know that there was a committee that formed an opinion? A very good opinion. First of all, 1 day a week, curbside, with the stipulation that if you are over 65 or you have a disability, you can have at no extra charge, same price for the monthly fee, you can have backdoor service. You didn't know that, did you? And this, we had, all the bids said this, and we asked that you all choose the best service for the lowest price for the citizens of Hendersonville. We recommended it to be the 1 day a week curbside and implement recycling so we don't have to pay a tremendous tipping fee. Take out the recyclables and your tipping fee will go down and we will not have to pay as much. Do you all have any questions of the committee? I'll be happy to answer them. Please ask me something.
Ms. Floyd, thank you.
I was a teacher. I had these people. I'm sorry, but you need to know what we found out. We didn't just go out and say, oh, Debbie Floyd wants back, sir, but we're going to vote her down. No, we listened. I did an online poll. I had
30 seconds.
100 people responded. I gave them the same thing. 2 day a week, back door, curbside, 1 day a week, and recycling. It was 80% to 20% people wanted what we recommended. Very unscientific, but I did that, and I'm telling you the results. All of you know what you're going to vote for. I didn't make a bit of difference with anybody.
Ms. Floyd, thank you so much. Next, we have David Mooney of Buckhaven Drive. Go ahead, David.
Well, good evening. Dave Mooney, 133 Buckhaven Drive, also 73R Newshackle Island Road at the VFW post. Every year, the VFW post, 9851 and American Legion Post 290 hold what we call Safety Day, and we honor the Fireman of the Year, the Policeman of the Year, the Sheriff's Deputy of the Year, etc. We did this April 28th this year, and I want to thank the Hendersonville Police Department for providing a name for us and recognition and providing police cars for the visitors to the post to learn more about the police department. Same for the fire department. Brian Fan, one of the assistant chiefs, was named the firefighter of the year. And if you go to the Hendersonville Fire Department official Facebook page, you'll see a very nice interview with Chief Fan by the TV station to do that. I also want to thank Sonny Weatherford, who was there to honor the Sumner County Deputy of the Year. And as you may recall, that was the day after the very tragic events up in Westmoreland, and he was a trooper there to come and help us honor his Officer of the Year. So again, we had a great turnout. We did this also in conjunction with the Hendersonville Police Academy, and they did a fundraiser there and raised over $5,000 due to the citizens that came and supported this what's turned into be a very great event. We had probably over 120 people come and visit the post and have a free spaghetti dinner and learn more about our fire department, police department, sheriff's department, etc. So I want to thank all the city departments that help support this thing. It makes a great event for both the city and the veterans organizations here in town. Thank you.
David, thank you. Next, we have Donna DeSopa of Chambliss Court.
My name is Donna DeSopa, 101 Chambliss Court. Maybe this might be a play on "You didn't know that, did you?" Because we just heard that. I want to start off by thanking our mayor because he's been doing his job and asking questions. It's called being curious, especially when things don't seem to be right. You have to be bold and curious and follow the questions so that you can get the answers. That's one thing I love about public records requesting. We, the citizenry, have the right to look at our public records. We fund everything. The city does not exist but through the citizenry. So I'm going to let that linger in the air for a moment. But since 2013, I had looked at our city attorney's employee file, and it was very troubling to me. So I applaud our mayor for asking questions for approximately 2 years. And what's troubling is 2 years later, he can't seem to get an answer to some basic questions. Is the city attorney a contractor or an employee? And when a mayor can't get access to data that's very critical or requests that a city attorney documents what he does for his hours and doesn't comply, in the real world, that's called insubordination. and any employee or contractor would be terminated. That's the real world. And that's what we have going on, in my opinion, and based on public records here. The Tennessee Treasury Department already informed the city that neither the Department of Labor or presumably the IRS have our city attorney listed as an employee. So over the last 2 weeks, I made 11 public records requests. And I know that there's an ordinance that's been floating around that we can only get 4 in a month. Public records requests very simply can lead you from one place to another, and you need those records because I can't come up to this podium with all of the confidence because I have the confidence of the data behind me. So the Department of Labor and presumably the IRS do not have him listed as an employee. The city is not reporting him as an employee to 2 entities that track employees. There is no I-9. That's a requirement. Homeland Security and employees have to have one. It's not in his file. And I'm still waiting on that to come back as not request. Thus, with all the research I've been doing, it's netting out as not an employee. So why would this board propose and vote on in the 11th hour taking our money, $10,000, to appeal an accurate decision from the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement Services, which is TCRS. I'll keep calling it TCRS. TCRS said not eligible, and I'll tell you why. Now, if you look at TCRS, and I've asked a couple of my aldermen, which I gave to you, Mayor, TCRS has very simple steps, very simple language. There's no misinterpretation. It's called proper English, and words matter. First of all, to be eligible, there has to be a passage of a resolution by the municipality governing the body authorizing an actuarial study, because that actuarial study will give you data sets, and that data will decide whether or not step 2, the passage of a resolution by the municipality governing body authorizing such participation and accepting the liability as a result of the study. You have to have the data to make a sound decision using our money. So I do have the one ordinance. Step 1 was done, and Mayor, you have that. It's Resolution 2001-21. It was authorized and adopted on the 13th day of March 2001. I'm going to try to use up as much time as I can. So when I asked for the backing documentation, there's nothing responsive from my request, and what that means, no data, no study completed. So step 1 wasn't even completed. Step 2, then I asked for the board passage of a resolution based on the actuarial study to authorize and accept the liability for participation.
Down to 30 seconds.
Nothing exists. Step 2 wasn't done out of 8 steps. That's pretty simple. It does not exist. And he does not qualify or not eligible. Not 1 penny of our money should be appropriated for an ineligible individual and to appeal. Our homes are not blank checks. And I have skin in the game in 2 wards. And you all need to do your due diligence, which has not been done. How could you pass and bring forth things without the knowledge?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Heather Verbal, Shadow Haven Way.
Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Heather Verbal, 105 South Shadow Haven Way. Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity to speak. I have been a Hendersonville resident for 12 years, over 12 years, and one of the things, or 2 of the things I was surprised about when I first moved here was that we had twice a week trash pickup and also the lack of recycling options that we had within the city. I feel compelled to speak tonight because I was really hopeful with the success of the recycling pilot project and also with the recommendations of the committee that we would see some change with this next trash contract. And I was surprised to see that at the last meeting, a vote almost passed to maintain our current twice-a-week backdoor pickup. I reached out to one of my aldermen, Alderman Hayes, and who actually voted to keep the existing contract. And he told me he wouldn't be here tonight, but he was very receptive to my concerns and encouraged me to come tonight. So that's why I'm here. My concerns are the following. First of all, as I mentioned, it started out about recycling. I'm a native Tennessean. I am a lifelong recycler. The curbside program started in my small town when I was in 3rd grade over 30 years ago, so it's just a lifelong habit for me. Again, I was disappointed that there aren't really any good even drop-off options here that are open to the public. I personally use Green Village for curbside that I pay for myself. I know recycling has its issues, but I do know with proper training and how to separate and what to do, or whether you mingle or rinse or whatever, good instruction, it's still a viable option for disposal. But as I mentioned, my concern started out about recycling, but it quickly moved to just pure fiscal responsibility. Twice a week backdoor trash pickup is excessive and extravagant. I have done an informal poll, granted informal, but I've talked to many of my coworkers, and I work in Nashville, so they live in many other counties. I've talked to residents of Cheatham County, Davidson County, Robertson County, Wilson County, Rutherford County, and Williamson County, and not one of the folks I talked to had twice a week trash pickup, and not one of the folks I talked to had backdoor service. Furthermore, I have a family of 8, which by most standards would be considered pretty large. In my family of 8, we recycle, and we fill 1 can with recycling every 2 weeks, and we fill 1 trash can every 2 weeks. So even if I wasn't recycling and was only doing trash with my family of 8, I still only have 1 can of trash per week. So we're not getting my money's worth out of my family. Furthermore, it was 2 or 3 years that I lived here before I even knew we had backdoor service. No one has ever come to my back door to get a trash can ever. So I didn't even know that existed. So certainly not getting the money's worth there. Speaking of getting money's worth, in my job, I am the CFO of a large nonprofit. So I know what it means to be entrusted with the public's money. In my job, it's donations. Here, it's taxpayer dollars. As we steward the resources entrusted to us, we want to use them to have the greatest and most positive impact in our community. Twice a week backdoor trash service is not a value add to the community. Improvements to roads, parks, and other infrastructure provide so much more value. Visitors don't come to our community and think, well, these roads are in bad shape, but at least they have twice a week backdoor trash pickup. The current trash service simply does not add value to our properties the way infrastructure maintenance and improvement would. Just like in my job, what gives the most bang for the buck? It's not twice a week backdoor trash pickup. Our current situation is seriously like me having a home in bad need of repair and deciding instead to spend my money on a luxury car to park in the driveway while my home crumbles around it. Lastly, I do have environmental concerns when we provide twice a week trash pickup. I think it's an incentive for people to just throw things away they might otherwise find a way to recycle or reuse, causing more need for landfills, which no one wants to have in their backyards. In closing, I want to reiterate that I oppose keeping twice a week backdoor trash service. I feel it is a non-value adding, extravagant waste of taxpayer dollars that could be used for the betterment of our community. I'm in support of either weekly or bi-weekly curbside trash and recycling. Thank you for your time.
Heather, thank you. Shelley Ames, Stones Throw.
Good evening to all of you. I'm Shelley Ames. I live at 107 Stones Throw in Hendersonville, and I'm a new co-president of the League of Women Voters. Earlier this year, the League of Women Voters of Hendersonville formed a fact-finding committee to look at the proposed hiring of a city administrator for Hendersonville. The committee studied the city charter, reviewed the report of the ad hoc committee, interviewed the mayor, and met formally and informally with aldermen. We also consulted MTAS. While our committee did not take a position on the issue, we had some concerns and questions. We issued a statement read at the April 9th meeting by our president, Bonnie Furtek. She read that to the Boma meeting on May 9th, as I said. We have since learned that we had incomplete information. We were under the impression that there was not an alternative to a city administrator position under our charter. We have since learned that there is an alternative. Under the general charter that the city operates under, we are allowed to have other alternatives, such as a chief of staff to aid the mayor. This is based on the opinion of the attorney for MTAS. This would require the approval of Boma, through an ordinance. We think it would be wise, in light of the opinion of MTAS, to consider other alternatives to adding another layer of government. The citizens of Hendersonville voted by a 2-to-1 majority to have an elected mayor, alderman form of government. It is really a matter of accountability and power structure. If you decide to hire a city administrator who would report to the entire board of 13 instead of reporting to the mayor, the power and accountability shifts. There is concern among the citizens about that. The citizens still seem to want to have an elected mayor who has the power to run the city and for the board to provide the mayor other assistance and aid that he may need. If there are problems with the existing administration, or if the mayor needs or staff needs help, is it necessary to change our government structure, or could there be another alternative? For instance, could Boma authorize the hiring of the chief of staff to aid the current mayor? Qualifications and standards could be addressed in the job description. We appreciate your considering our concerns. We are reflective of the community at large, and we ask that you investigate all options. Thank you for your service.
Shelley, thank you. Cynthia Hernandez, Old Check Island Road. Help us out. What do you need, Cynthia?
Results for a petition.
I'm sorry?
I have some results for a petition.
Okay. Do you want us to make some copies? Do you want to hand those out? What's?
I mean, I have names of people. Is that protocol to give those names?
Sure. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got a couple copies, but.
Here. You want everybody up here to have a copy? Okay. Maybe not while you speak, but we'll get them out there. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hey there. I am Cynthia Hernandez. I live on Old Chuckle Island Road here in Hendersonville. I've lived here most of my life. I went through the beach school system, and now my kids are there. I also happen to work for the Tennessee Environmental Council, which is a nonprofit organization based in Nashville with statewide outreach. Some of our programs that we have are statewide. We know that natural resources are the backbone of our communities, our economy, and our quality of life here in Tennessee. Things like clean water, clean air, recyclables. We educate and advocate for the conservation and improvement of the environment, communities, and public health. One of our current projects is Recycling Right Nashville, or Recycle Right Tennessee, and we have several cities signed up trying to encourage recycling, educate Tennesseans about the importance of recycling. Did you know that Tennessee throws away millions of dollars worth of recyclable materials every year? Recycling is important because it expands the lifespan of landfills. As you know, or may not know, the middle point is where we take our trash, and it is near capacity with 5 to 10 years left before it's full. After that, I'm not sure what the plan is, but it's probably going to cost more money to ship our waste. Landfills are not practical or sustainable. We want to try to divert waste away from the landfills as much as possible. A recent study found that rivers in Tennessee are some of the most polluted in the world with microplastics. Not to call anybody out, but I see several plastic bottles on the table right now. Those bottles are going to last how many hundreds of years? Anybody know? 600 or 700? A lot. Many years. Just for that drink on your table now. But why do we need to recycle in Hendersonville? Currently, there's no option to recycle in Hendersonville. They do have options in Nashville, Gallatin, Springfield, the local Green Village Recycling Center has a good track record, and they are helping Springfield with their curbside recycling as we speak. They've had a successful drop-off location for 4 years that the city didn't back up, and I wish that they would have. Also, Lebanon, we're working with them right now. They have a buy-in program, and they're billed, the recycling is, they sign up for it, and it's billed to the utilities, the water utilities. So I would like Mayor Clary to have a meet up with Mayor Bernie Ash in Lebanon. He could probably teach you a thing or two. If you look in the trash right now, I don't know if you all have a trash back there. It's probably more than half of it is recyclable materials. And I would just ask that the city show leadership and support the idea and encourage citizens to recycle with convenience centers or curbside recycling, ideally. I know you've had the pilot curbside recycling program. Is there a report on that? I've heard that it's going well. I've seen lots of good comments and feedback on Facebook. And I did do a petition to try to garner support for recycling, and started it 5 days ago. I got 128 signatures right now. 108 of those are living in Hendersonville. So the petition read, "We, the people of Hendersonville, Tennessee, in order to form a more perfect waste stream and to promote the conservation of our natural resources, are in favor of implementing less frequent disposal services and incorporating a citywide curbside solid waste and recycling program. The city's waste contract is up for renewal in June. The Middle Point landfill will be full in 5 to 10 years.
Cynthia, 30
need
seconds.
A long-term plan to reduce waste, not a system that encourages more. Combined solid waste and recycling would reduce tipping fees and fuel costs associated with backdoor services. We need to create infrastructure for recycling, and please oppose the twice-a-week backdoor pickup. I think we can do better with our taxpayer dollars, and yeah.
Cynthia, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Chris Spencer, River Chase. She did Marshall.
Just so you know, the fishing is really doing well. Get out on the lake. I moved here really for that reason and alone. We had a deal with my wife. She said, we'll move to Hendersonville, but you got to give up golfing or fishing. And I said, well, I haven't golfed in 15 years. So I'm going to be brief. Last meeting, 4 o'clock in the morning. I've talked about this. I think this might be the third time. You know, our best senators and congressmen in the United States of America on the highest boards that we have, judicial branch, picking our Supreme Court, they get 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We had a guy talk for 25 minutes the other day, and it had nothing to do with the CA. We can do better than that. If we're limited to 5 minutes, you guys should be limited to 5 minutes. You work for us. We hate being here till 4 a.m., and I know you do too. At least 11 of you do. So let's do something about that, please. The CA position, real quick. We do have new information on that. I oppose the CA position. I like Eddie's idea of a chief of staff. If you guys really want to help the mayor, that's what you've argued for. This is something that we should try first before we change our form of government and grow it. So we need to really look at that and not change our government. It's been 30 years that we've had it this way. So let's think about that and give a chief of staff a chance. I did want to say one thing on the statistics that we're running about in that 25-minute rant the other night. He talked about trying to delegitimize our mayor because he only received 8,000 votes. Does this board know that Scott Foster won with 7,907 votes? That's less than what Jamie got. I didn't hear anybody trying to delegitimize Scott Foster when he won. Change the rules. change the rules, have a runoff, so the mayor can have 50%, so we can't say that anymore. Real quick on garbage. I ran on this, so I'm for once a week. I mean, we're wasteful. We are spending almost $2 million out of the general fund. A lot of people don't realize that. We're subsidizing it. So either we take that off the general fund so we can use it on infrastructure and we pay for twice a week, or we just move to once a week, work on our infrastructure. These ladies who spoke here tonight, very elegant. They speak better than me. Please, once a week. We don't need to go in the backyard. I don't want anybody in my backyard anyways. Somebody might get shot one of these days. Thank you.
Chris, thank you. Next is Marty Williams, Sterling Shire Drive.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I apologize, but apparently I signed the wrong list. I was here to speak about the Durham Farms issue. Will I be allowed to do that now?
Go for it.
Okay.
You're good.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So, my family and I have lived on Sterling Shire with a 400-acre farm behind us for about 16 years. Several years ago, or whenever the plan for Durham Farms was put into place, we came to the meetings and did not oppose that plan because we were assured that the properties that connected to our properties were going to not negatively affect our neighborhood, and that would be the single-family large estate homes that they assured us were going in there. With the suggestion of the change of that plan, I question whether that's going to negatively affect our neighborhood. We've stayed in our home based on the original decision. With that change, I question the value of our home, the neighborhood, and all those things that are going on. Some of the aspects that I'm concerned about, the original plan called for a certain amount of greenlands that go with the plan. I have a question about whether or not the new proposed veteran park is basically the same amount of greenlands, or if it's an additional amount. Also, I question whether or not the greenland or the park could not be put where the duplexes are, as was suggested earlier, as opposed to just drastically changing. I also would like to mention that, to my knowledge, I think that the border that goes along the Sterling Shire Point property abutment is the only one that really does not have a significant greenlands border. Most everywhere else around the Durham Farms is a pretty good amount of space, but the proposed duplexes would be just amazingly close to the property line. And of course, there's going to be so many more of them than the state homes. So the traffic on Drake's Creek is already significantly higher than it was, and they're nowhere near completion. I just don't know how the traffic is going to be able to handle all of that, especially if you go from large lots, single estates, to multifamily. That number is going to go up significantly. So I really would ask you to reconsider the changes and take another look at the impact that's going to be going on both in the traffic. And I also agree with the gentleman earlier that mentioned that the original 5-way stop there should have been addressed from the get-go. It's just chaos right there currently, and it's dangerous. So just wanted to reiterate my opposition to that, and thank you for your time.
Marty, thank you. Jason DiStefano, Center Point Road.
Good evening, Jason DiStefano, 173 Center Point Road. Wow, I had no idea how many people were going to speak on behalf of this whole waste issue tonight, and I'm really, really surprised. I was going to talk about change, and there's been a lot of discussion about change. Change is imminent. I've been here for 33 years. I remember getting off the interstate on I-65 and having to come through past Rivergate and drive up Gallatin Road to visit my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, of over 25 years. So I love Hendersonville. And I would think, talking about change, that any citizen would run for public office to effect change, positive change. I moved to Hendersonville because it has 2-time weekly trash collection. Said no one ever. I mean, really. For 10 years, Hendersonville has been paying the same company to pick up 2 times a week. I've heard this called a Cadillac service. At first I thought, what do you mean Cadillac? Well, because a Cadillac's a really nice, expensive car, and this is a really expensive plan. $60 million over the past 10 years to landfill Hendersonville's garbage. And tonight, you're going to discuss and vote on 5 more years and potentially $30 million more dollars. That'll be $100 million to put garbage in the landfill in less than 2 decades. That's not very good. In fact, it's horrible. If there were school children in the room right now, they would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed. Now it's time to make change. Move away from the 2-time backdoor service weekly to 1-time waste collection weekly and save money. Consider requiring the selected waste hauler to provide a 96-gallon roll cart to collect that material. Do you know that most people have a 33-gallon garbage can? 33-gallon. A lot of people have 2 of those. That's 66 gallons. They're not always full. They're picked up twice a week. We do the math. 1 96-gallon roll cart is going to be sufficient for 1 collection weekly. And oh, by the way, it may allow for recycling to occur twice a month or 4 times a month. The tale of 3 cities by the lake: Gallatin, Hendersonville, and Mount Juliet. All different. All approaching waste in a different way. Hendersonville puts its waste contract out to bid. Gallatin handles it through its municipality and its own staff and its own trucks, while Mount Juliet has no waste or recycling. You have to go through a private hauler. We're all in the same lake, and we can't even figure out how to do this consistently. We can't look to other cities always for the answer because we're all doing it different, but we can lead and we can make change. A vote to keep the current Cadillac waste service is a poor and wasteful decision. Please consider making the proper change and saving Hendersonville taxpayer dollars by voting for 1-time weekly garbage collection. Thank you.
Jason, thank you. Mary Burns, Roberta Drive.
God, I can't follow him. He makes me lose track of what I'm going to say, but first of all, I want to say happy birthday, Steve. I'm surprised somebody else hasn't got there first with that. It says happy birthday on the dais for you. I don't know, but one of your buddies isn't so friendly. Well, that's a good one. You know what I want? I want once a week, and I want curbside service. I would like to say that the reverse is also true when it comes to the people that are paying excess amount of money that are going to the curb. We're actually paying for the Cadillac service for the people that are getting backdoor. And I think that that's just not fair. The art of being a politician is compromise. And I have posted all of you repeatedly about finding a way to compromise. Now, why should all of the new homes that you're going to approve and all of the new developments, their driveways are this long, and they all take it to the curb? Why should they be penalized? It's like taxation without representation, because they're going to pay for that backdoor service if you vote that way. Please find a way to compromise. You have the option of picking a service. It's time for change. If you pick a service that will give you once a week curbside, you can talk to that particular service and find a way where if the percentage goes past the 3% concern in the contract, negotiate. That's your job. I doubt that it's going to be that full $1 million that it will cost if you decide to go for the backdoor Cadillac service. For God's sake, we're a Prius. you know, I love the city of Hendersonville. This is my town, and you're going to be looking at my face repeatedly until I do get what I want. So if I have to stand here for the next 5 years because you pick the wrong one, you're going to see me. Solid waste is not rocket science. If you pay for twice a week backdoor trash, or if you have the 96-gallon container once a week, it's the same trash, the same exact amount of trash. Now, why would you want to pay $4 million for it? I'm getting upset. Or instead of $1 million. That's absurd. And I will be watching, but I'm not going away. I'm really not. Right? You won't ever think that, because, no, I'm not in the military, but my husband was Navy and then Air Force. So anyway, I'm very, very serious. I'm not going away, and it's time to get busy and get our RFP out for recycling. No more, well, later, we're too busy, we got other things to do. You're building houses. When I see these people do these flying object things that take pictures of houses, my God, there's more short driveways than I really realize there is. I would dare say that more than 50% of our public is already doing curbside. So why should they have to pay because you guys can't compromise? You need to do negotiation and make the best deal you can for us. And that means give all of those new people that you've invited by letting the houses be built in our community, give them what they're asking for. And for the love of Pete, compromise for the people that need it. There are people that truly need backdoor service, and I'd be the last person to say they shouldn't have it. If they're a senior citizen, if they're not capable of getting to it, or if it's a safety concern for their particular street.
Nearly 30
Take care
seconds.
of business. Did you say 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay, I'll watch. Okay, so in 30 seconds from now, I'll leave this dais, but until then, I want to make sure that you understand that I speak for the people that take their trash to the curb.
Thank you, Mary.
Is my time up?
14, 13?
Happy birthday, Steve.
Okay. Tyrone J., Manscrew Farms.
Thank you. My name's Tyrone J., reside at 1019 Manscrew Farms. We are good with once a week curbside, and currently right now, that's what I do once a week. It comes twice a week, I just put it out once. Now, some of you may know, I appreciate everybody's comments today, it's really great stuff. But I live in a HOA subdivision, Manscrew Farms. Our covenant makes it incredibly feasibly difficult for us to have backdoor service. Arlene and Russ probably well aware of this, because it's basically a visibility thing. Non-trash days not visible at all. Like we keep ours in our garage. Some people keep theirs behind their fence, behind bushes, which trash men can't go in those fences. So I wasn't here last time at 4 a.m., but I guess I read an article where the gentleman from Republic said it's about 70% they do backdoor, and which means 30% people like me. My question is, and hopefully you guys can talk about this later on tonight, in those bids that we got going on through all the companies for backdoor, does it take into account the 70 percentile, or does it give us a 100% price tag as the two of the other citizens spoke of? So that's one question. If Republic's not doing it, can other companies do that? Give us the 70% rate at backdoor, because it sounds like the way I understand it that we're going to go with this with the same old as backdoor service, which is unfortunate. My other 2 points, so those are questions I hopefully you guys can address tonight. My other 2 points or questions is long term, and that is, did we ever think about or chatter around buying our own trash trucks and employees and doing our own trash collection as a city. The numbers to me on that looks like over the long haul, just on pickup, not tipping fees, would save about $1 million a year just in that versus paying a company to do it. Maybe my math's completely off, but I studied the numbers pretty good. And then the last point is on recycling. A few people's brought it up. My question is to you guys, hopefully maybe you guys can speak on this tonight. How is the pilot program neighborhoods coming along with recycling? With all the variables involved, do we have the percentages enough to break even on the cost of the startup costs, the trash cans and stuff? With that number, let's say we do break even, if we take that number citywide, and hopefully those statistics will stay the same, will that allow us to save that big number on the tipping fees? A lot of people's been throwing around their goal was to get to $1 million savings on the tipping fees per year based on the recycling program. Now, that's before we started a pilot project, so I would just like somebody, if they could, do we have enough data, enough time frame passed to speak about the pilot program, how's it going, and what the numbers look like for us to possibly do it long-term and for money savings. So the next question is, have we entertained buying our own trash trucks and employees to do our own trash pickup? Then the third point is the 70% multiplier of the bids for backdoor versus the 100%, as a few people's brought up already. So there's my 3 questions, so hopefully you guys can speak about that when it's your turn to speak later on, I guess. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Next, we have committee reports. Finance Committee, Chairman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our special call finance meeting tonight for the purpose of the presentation of the audit from Kraft CPA. We went through the audit and had a lot of questions that were answered satisfactorily. It looks like our city is in good shape financially. Our general fund is a little bit low, as it has been in years past, but I think with the new budget coming on board, we'll see that improve. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chairman Sprouse, General Committee.
Thank you. General Committee met earlier tonight. We had a pretty full agenda. We had ordinance 2019-9 dealing with inspection duplication of public records. We recommended that unanimously with an amendment being offered to the sponsor. Ordinance 2019-18 dealing with the electrical code, and that also is going to come to you with a positive unanimous recommendation. 2019-22 dealing with establishment of impact fees. Had a very good discussion, started that discussion. It's going to be before 2 other committees in 2 weeks. The members of those committees, some of the members of those committees were in our committee meeting tonight. They were part of that discussion. I think we're going to continue that discussion in those committees in 2 weeks. Resolution 2019-23, resolution recommending certain streets and development names no longer be used. Again, passed with a recommendation unanimously. And resolution regarding adjournment of meetings, time frame for our meetings. Again, a unanimous positive recommendation with an amendment being offered to the sponsor. The resolution regarding decorum and behavior during meetings was withdrawn. And then we reviewed the following budgets of departments. The Codes Department, the Executive, Human Resources, IT, and Planning budgets. We took no action on codes or IT. We had some additional information. There's some numbers that need to be fixed in there. But we did give positive recommendation to the Executive, the HR, and the Planning. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Chairman Brown, Public Safety.
Thanks, Mayor. We approved minutes for our April 9th meeting, and we also approved minutes for a joint meeting with Public Safety and Finance on the same date. And we had an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code establishing impact fees for the city of Hendersonville. After discussion within committee, we deferred that until our next committee meeting in June. We had some questions that we needed answered, and we'll take that up again at that time and then make a decision on what we want to do with it. We also had a resolution 2019-28. It's a resolution of the city of Hendersonville addressing domestic violence in our community. That resolution will be before you in 2 weeks. We are just recommending that the resolution recommends that the city be very aware, families be very aware, business be very aware of that issue. We had a discussion regarding security cameras in Hendersonville parks. That discussion just basically led to some more discussion, some involvement of looking at what that money would look like to possibly put that in budgets. We've had a couple cars broken into. We don't have cameras in our parks right now, so that's what that discussion led to. We also had a discussion on our budget for about 2 minutes. That's about all the time we had, and what we did was schedule a special called meeting for May the 23rd, which is a Thursday, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. May the 23rd, Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, to go over police and fire budgets thoroughly. We had 2 other small resolutions in front of us. One was to replace the animal control truck, 2019-31, in the police department with insurance funds that we have for other vehicles that have either been wrecked or damaged. And then we have a resolution 2019-32 is a resolution authorizing the transfer of $65,000 from the police department account assets of $7,000 and up to the Public Works Department horse barn construction account. This is to finish some things up in sewer tap, water tap, electricity, and lights and things was not paid for in the original grant. We also, I've asked Mr. Manning in our finance department, we transferred some money from the fire department a few months ago. Chief Bush gave up about $40,000 on computers to be used to help in that funding of the horse barn. And I've asked for a reconciliation of that $40,000. We may still have some of that in there. So the 65 may not be what we need, but if it is, there it is. So that'll be before you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening. We're scheduled to meet on May 28th at 5:30 in the Newman Conference Room right over there, about 20 feet away from us. And thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. Chairman Campbell, Capital Projects.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be calling a special called Capital Projects meeting, committee meeting here in the near future to discuss capital projects funding for the coming year, this coming year's budget. So we'll make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to properly funding all the capital projects we have before us. And I want to make sure that Marshall can get us the numbers so we can review those in due time and make sure everything's good. Thank you.
Chairman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Woodcock, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission met on May 7th. We had about a 4 or 5 page agenda. Most items were internal housekeeping items. Here are the highlights I feel like the board would want to know about. We approved the final plat for Clubhouse Bay, which, if you'll remember, is the small development on Carrington Road behind Bluegrass Beverages that we approved maybe a year or so ago. We approved the final development plan for Ivy Point, or a revision of their FDP for Ivy Point. We approved a site plan for the current O'Charlie's location. That building will be torn down with 2 fast service restaurants taking its place. We approved the site plan for a warehouse-type building on Jessica Lauren Court, a site plan for a medical facility, a very nice medical facility on Sonnersville Road next to the TOA building that's under construction currently. And the last item is a site plan for Music City Industrial Park on New Shackle Island Road. As the title suggests, it is a warehouse facility, and it'll be a great one. I wish we had pictures of it, but it's very exciting stuff happening in the city, as you can tell. Things are moving along nicely. Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Next we have on the agenda, we have item I, which is Resolution 2019-26. This is a resolution to determine trash collection service for the city of Hendersonville. This began as a resolution that I sponsored, and the idea behind it, well, there's a couple sort of blanks that we filled in. And the first blank I had was that we would hire Waste Pro and that it would be once a week backdoor trash service. That was changed our last meeting to Republic Services to twice a week backdoor. We changed that with a proper vote from amendment from Alderman Sprouse. After that, in order to pass the main motion, we had a second vote, and the vote on that, the tally was 6 people for, 5 people against, and 1 person abstained. I mistakenly said that that passed. and then we adjourned and we all left. I apologize for that mistake. Right now, where we are is where we had the amendment. I talked to a person who is a professional in Robert's Rules today, and he said we need to restart right where we were when that amendment passed. And that is that the resolution with that amendment is that we are seeking service from Republic Services for backdoor trash pickup twice a week. Having said that, Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion. Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Alderman Waters, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Chairman, I suspend the rules and ask the representative from Waste Pro to come to the podium.
Let's do this. Why don't we ask the representative from Waste Pro and go ahead and suspend the rules for folks from Republic, just in case you want to hear from them as well. Without objection, we're going to do that. Anybody? I appreciate that. Let's hear from Waste Pro. Who do you want to hear from? You want to hear from Lori? You want to hear from, or do they decide? Okay.
They both look like they know what they're doing.
Okay. Just introduce yourselves, please. And y'all's responsibility is to answer questions, okay? We're not selling at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Alderman Waters.
Good evening. I want to read a sentence here that I got from Waste Pro. Excuse me. Should the city of Hendersonville select Waste Pro as a provider, our staff is fully prepared to provide backdoor collection services to any residential customer that qualifies under any of the curbside collection proposals. Can you explain what qualified means? Then I'll follow up with another question.
I sent that email. My name is Lori Kate, and I'm the Municipal Marketing Director, so I handle all of our municipal contracts for Roland's region for Waste Pro. And in the proposal, we were asked to provide pricing for up to 3% of backdoor homes. That was just to have an even playing field for the proposals given before the board. What we're trying to say in that statement is anyone who qualifies based on the bar set by the city, whether it's, because I've heard lots of options thrown out, we're going to provide that. We're going to provide service to the handicapped, to the elderly, or whatever circumstances are laid out by this board and negotiated in that contract. So I know the 3% has been a very sticking number with a lot of people, and we just wanted to clarify that we will be providing that service should either of the curbside collection options be chosen.
Are you going to let the 3% stand in the way of making changes?
I don't think we have an exact number what that is, so that should be part of the negotiation part of it. But like Lori said, if someone has, obvious thing is that they have a handicap placard, obviously they qualify. If they've got something from their doctor that states physical handicap, they will qualify.
Sir, I'm not so much involved with handicapped as I am seniors. In my ward, in our ward, my survey came back at 20% seniors, and handicap does not play a part in it. They're like me, they're getting old, and they don't want to take it to the curb. So as I look at your curbside once a week, which is a good one, how are you going to work that in to, as you said, the qualified residents for their backdoor service? Now, forget about the 3%. I'm not interested in that.
So hopefully, when we get ready to start the contract, we'll be provided a list. And that will go into our routing to determine if we've got, one backdoor customer on this street, that may be serviced with an automated truck. The driver may actually get up and go get that. And if it's multiple homes on that street that has backdoor, it may be serviced with a rear load truck. It just depends on where the customers are located, the days of services, how many backdoor customers are on that particular day, what type of equipment we have, and the type of personnel we have. But it's going to be hard to sit here and answer that question and not know exactly how many backdoor customers.
I'm just reading your letter, sir. I don't, you do have time to answer it. You wrote it. One of my neighbors made a fine point a while ago in her statement about backdoor and curbside.
I think the important thing, not to interrupt you, I think the important thing is that the parameters that are going to be set to determine whether backdoor service is provided is determined by the city. We're just prepared to offer it based on whatever parameters you choose. And that's an important fact. The 3% was just an estimate to begin with so that we could provide a number. If all of a sudden that number drastically grows, the city in the proposal protected itself and protected the hauler to be able to negotiate through that should there be, let's say, a drastic increase from 3% to, let's say it went up to 70, to throw a strange number out there. You've got to be able to protect the city, and you've got to be able to protect the hauler. Otherwise, the bids that you were going to receive were not going to be fair and beneficial for what you were trying to accomplish with curbside service.
Okay. Of course, I don't know how the board's going to vote on this. I like your curbside once a week, but I'm also concerned about the back door. We've got to get the back door in there. I'll leave it up to how the members on the board talk about it and vote. But you're telling us tonight, if we go curbside once a week, you're going to take care of the back door.
Inside the parameters that the board sets.
But
Yes,
the decision is up to us.
Yes.
Okay? Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Alderman Strauss.
I'm not sure when we're talking about the parameters the board set. If the board sets a rather broad parameter where we do reach that 70% number, or we reach that 30% number, or 50% number, I would think that there's a point where service is no longer economically feasible, because it would have been a number that would have approached your backdoor pickup number. It's unfortunate that the time, and Mayor, I appreciate your explanation of how we got into the situation and the research you put into this to make sure we do it right. I think the intent of this board was pretty clear at our last meeting, even if our vote was not. And I think a couple of things we need to consider. I don't think that we hear as much of a voice tonight in citizens' comments from people who support the decision that we thought we made 3 weeks ago, in large part because I think that decision has been made, and this is really more of a housekeeping issue, and we're not relitigating it. But a couple of things we've heard is that, well, we never moved to Hendersonville because of backdoor pickup service. And that's true. It's not going to be in a top 10 or a top 20 or top 50 wonderful things about this community, and I've lived here for almost 49 years. It's not the reason why my wife and I decided to stay here when we got married. But there was a time, I'm going to show my age here a little bit, maybe Mr. Brown will remember, there was a time where the hottest button issue in the community, if you based upon what our comments we got were, was the sign in front of City Square Shopping Center when it changed. It wasn't a reason why anyone moved here or moved away, but we had a lot of people who talked a lot about it, and it was the most hideous thing that they had ever seen. And I can't believe the city allowed us to do that. So it's just to say that there's lots of things that build towards community. And people aren't going to talk about them until they lose them, until they change them. And one of the things we have to say is when we talk about compromise, it's not compromise to say, let's take an option that we've had for decades, that if you want right now what we have, and if we vote to affirm what we thought we voted on 3 weeks ago, we'll have twice a week backdoor. If someone wants to take their can to the curb, they can take their can to the curb. If someone wants to put their trash out once a week, they can put their trash out once a week with that option. Someone who wants to stay backdoor can stay backdoor. Someone who significantly needs, or just wants twice a week can still do twice a week. But as soon as we make a change to where it's limited to only once a week, that's not a compromise. That's taking away an option from members of this community. If we go to curbside and curbside only, that takes away options from this community. The only option that really gives everybody what they would like to have is twice a week backdoor service, and it does it at a cost lower than what we're currently paying. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer. I've had a lot of people have asked for me to keep it the way it is, and some of them have been folks who've said that they feel like they have difficulty with walking or moving the cans, and I've explained to them that that's not a concern. But there's some people who just don't want it. And there are some people, one person we all know, more able-bodied than any of us, not that that's really saying anything, but more able-bodied than any of us, who says, Scott, where am I supposed to put the can?
Go ahead. Hold on one second. Alderman Waters, go ahead.
I ask these people to come.
I'm sorry.
Ask questions. I wish my colleague would ask the questions and let them answer them. I know
I
they got the
apologize.
answers.
Hold on, we'll go back. Do you have any questions for him, or do you want?
I asked my question.
Okay, so it's going to be a second.
Thank
You
you.
want to sit down for a second?
I'm sorry. I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Okay. Okay, Alderman Sprouse, go ahead.
But he told me the concern is he has no curb. He has no curbside to which he can take his can. He can't even put it into the driveway because of the slope of his driveway. And when I drive through my ward and I drive Indian Lake Road and I drive Cherokee and I drive Walton Ferry and Saunders Ferry and I drive these roads, there's no place to put a can. So what do we do in those situations? What do you do? Are you prepared that when we go for an entire mile stretch of road where the road is above the grade, I mean, the grade of the road is above the yard, what do we do in those situations?
Is it a standard two-lane roadway?
Yeah.
We service rural roads that are that way with no curb, side ditches, numerous contracts that have that same situation.
But I mean, do you calculate those numbers in when people say there's no place for me to put a can?
There's usually somewhere to place a container, whether it's the edge of the driveway or right, say close to the mailbox, but not near the mailbox. There's usually a place to find a 12, 14-inch square spot that can be.
I've looked at a lot of these, and it's really going to have to be, if they're lucky, they can put it at the end of their driveway, in their driveway.
Right.
Which takes away their ability to pull in and out in the morning. That's my concern. I agree that we should be looking at recycling, but let's make it very clear. Of all the 4 options that are on the table, none of them include recycling. Not a single bid includes a recycling option. That's not something we are voting on tonight. That's not something we can vote on tonight. I wish that we could get to a situation that we could do this. And the idea of saving money, the fees that we pay towards collection and the fees that we pay for things like, and the money we pay for roads and things like that are completely different pots. And so if we have a reduction in service of trash service and we lower that fee, that's money I've already pledged to give back to homeowners. That's not money I'm going to take and turn around and pay for something else. It can't pay. It's a different line item. But those are my questions, is what happens, because 3% may be a good number for the folks who have the handicap tags or can document something or a letter from a doctor. But I got a lot of folks who are highly able-bodied, but the lot doesn't work out where for it, or they just don't want it. And I think that the compromise should be take the level of service that provides something that everybody wants. And you can get your choices from that and not limit the options. Appreciate your consideration. Appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. I need to clarify something. Alderman Cunningham asked me to do this. The initial resolution was for Waste Pro once a week backdoor. What we have in front of us now is what was amended by a proper vote. Alderman Bolt.
Yeah, I'm one of the ones that voted for backdoor twice last time. I have some discomfort with that just because of the cost, and no one should make decisions at 3:45 in the morning, I'll tell you that. But and I guess I'm still a little unsure. So in my ward, I have a lot of long driveways, and I do have some people that are concerned about that. I think Steve's had more comments from people wanting backdoor twice a week than maybe I have, and it's very mixed is what I'm getting. But clearly I have a lot of folks that have long driveways, have a number of folks that are elderly that don't want to do that, don't want to drag it out there. So I guess my question is, I'm still unsure, is, okay, your bid is at X number of dollars at 3%. Does that change if it ends up being 12%?
Does our bid price change? There was some flexibility, and I'm sorry if I overstepped. There was some flexibility left in there based on what was asked once that figure was determined. You're basically trying to have a provider look into the glass ball, and say this is going to be how many backdoor. And unfortunately, we can't do that. Otherwise, we'd be able to answer a whole lot more questions accurately of how we're going to handle the situation. So there was just some freedom left there to start with 3% and then let the city choose what service. What service are you leaning towards? What service do you want? That's why we just keep trying to firm up the fact that the handicapped, the elderly, those situations are going to be handled. You've just got to move forward to that negotiation phase with that contractor to work out those fine details, which are determined by this board through those parameters that decide. We're just here to execute that contract that y'all want.
Okay, so the short answer is that chances are it will go up in price if it ends up being 12 or 15% backdoor.
Well, and I believe like, the 3% was set, so all the bidders,
Yeah.
they were bidding on the same thing.
I understand, I'm just trying to clarify it, that's all.
I don't know that it could. Do we even know what the number is? I mean,
No.
if it's, I
have no
can't-
idea.
Yeah, if it's, like Lori says, if it's, 10 times the amount, yeah. Every hauler that bid on it probably would have to go up if once a week was chosen on their rate, with X amount, 20% backdoor service. So.
Okay.
If it's a
Hold
smaller,
on.
if it's a smaller
I think-
increase.
Hold on. Do you feel like your question was answered?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. Hold on one second. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. First, you clarified on where we're at. I want to ask, I guess, John this question. So if we're at post-amendment, and the amendment was to go from once a week Waste Pro to twice a week Republic, then we can't have any other vote because you'd be on the losing side of the amendment vote, right?
The resolution can still be amended. It's just the resolution before you is for twice a week backdoor pickup with Republic.
So if we wanted to, we could have another vote to reverse it back to the
That's why it's
original.
here, in case the board needs to either ratify what you did or
Okay.
tried to do previously, or you can change it with this vote because it was not properly passed at the last meeting.
Okay, next, I really have a question for Marshall, so I'm willing to step aside, but I see Republic going nuts back there waving around and stuff, so hopefully we're gonna allow them the opportunity to come up and answer the same questions that we allowed Waste Pro. Okay, just so you guys know that. Thank you.
Okay. No, we've got a couple people. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. To the senior alderman in Ward 5, I also have a question for Marshall. Basically, I'd just like to list off my 3 questions. Basically, what is the plan for recycling specifically? When are the bids going to go out? I emailed you that a week ago Monday and haven't received any answer. What are the specific plans, if there is a change in service, for any of the saved money? And, what is the plan for our tipping fees? As Mrs. Floyd stated, she did not realize how much money the city pays towards tipping. And it seems like if there was a graduated plan, eventually we could be planning for that fee instead of just pulling it out of the general fund every year. But also, there was several people that spoke about recycling, and I'm going to repeat what I said at the last meeting. There's nothing to be done about this, but I feel that the cart was put before the horse. Recycling should have been considered first, and then we can more readily understand where we're at with our garbage disposal and tipping fee. So we've got folks on one side who absolutely want twice a week backdoor service, and folks on the other side with once a week curbside. And there's not a lot of in between at this point. And even though we're paying, paying for Cadillac service, we actually have that compromise right now, which is folks who bring it to the curb, and they're happy to do so. And then we have folks who have their garbage picked up at back door. It's just that we're paying an extreme amount of money for it. So if you want to talk about compromise, maybe there is a compromise somewhere in that balance, where we have both backdoor and curbside, because there are many places in Ward 1, similar to Wards 4, and parts of Ward 5, where there's no shoulder. Your choices are put your garbage can in the middle of your driveway and then attempt to go to work and scoot around your can. And anyway, if you want to talk about compromise, let's talk about compromise. But if you don't want to talk about compromise and you just want to talk about your side, then it is what it is. But I think there's an opportunity for savings any way we cut it. But I would specifically like to know what exactly the plans are for recycling. When is your time frame for sending this out to bid? Or is it just a ruse? We're not going to do recycling anymore. But we need to have a conversation about recycling. Thank you.
Marcia, you want to hit that now? Okay. Oh, come on up here. Yeah, come on up here. We got some questions. Should we go ahead and have Marshall answer those questions?
Can I ask my question since I have...
To Marshall also? We'll come back to you. Okay.
Start with
Yes.
Alderman
Let's do
Petrelli.
that.
I apologize for
And I'll
not saying
come
that
back. No,
earlier.
thanks. Okay. I saw something.
We had a trash and recycling committee that has met, 3 or 4 times, and then out of that, there were some recommendations made about recycling. And so as far as recycling goes, we'd probably start with the recommendations from the committee and then kind of go from there. But I think they kind of spelled out a few things to kind of start with, and we would certainly try to implement that and find out what the cost is and bring that back before the board to kind of make a decision.
Microphone. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So what is the recommendation?
I didn't bring it with me, but I believe they wanted bins throughout the city, and also to have, I think, a twice per month collection. And so that would, and of course we don't know the cost of that. We'd have to bid out those services, find out what the cost would be, and of course see how that would correspond to the reduction in disposal, to be able to kind of paint a picture of how much it would really cost.
Right, again, which is
Right.
why I felt that recycling should have gone first. You bid it out first because, like I said at the last meeting, you reduce your tipping.
Right.
And then as you track how your tipping should be reduced, then it determines your service.
Right.
But regardless, we're here anyway. So
Right.
so when are we going to bid out recycling?
My goal was to, after we get the trash decided, then begin the process for recycling. So
Sure, what's your date? When are you going to put it out for bid?
I would guess probably, I don't have an exact date, but I would think in the next month or two we'd have a bid package ready for twice per month collection with bins.
For how many people in the city?
It'd be citywide.
So a citywide RFP is going to go out for recycling in the next month.
We also might look at other possibilities as well.
Right.
What are the other possibilities?
We could start, well, like the mayor said, if we did bins like Gallatin, Gallatin has a location for drop off. If we started, maybe we would start with bins in certain locations and then see how that goes. Then maybe we proceed to, city, if it goes well, maybe we proceed to citywide recycling.
And I'm not trying to be a stickler here, but we have a ban on bins citywide, do we not? That was one of the first things we did when I became an alderman, got rid of bins for junk recycling. So does that mean we reverse the bin ban?
John, you want to do that one? Do you know the answer to that one?
We did.
Okay. Alderman Brown.
I can answer it with the help of Keith, maybe. But bins are not totally banned. Well, it's hard to say. Bins are not banned.
Okay.
They're not totally banned, but they have to be screened. They have to be put so far from the road. They have to be shielded. You just want to take one and set it out here by the road. Mr. Ames was on the board and we did that. You just can't do it.
Okay.
They've got to be covered. So they're not banned.
Okay.
But they are governed very strongly.
I'm thinking like
Appreciate
in the park, for example, that might be one location.
All right.
That we could put one.
Okay, so you're talking about a combination of like bins and residential?
It could be. We could do it one of two ways. We could do it all at one time and see what in one RFP, or we could break it out into 2 RFPs and take it either way.
Okay, so what I'm trying to determine is that you're going to send out an RFP at the least for city-wide recycling.
Yes.
And that's going to go out in the next month.
May give it 2 months, but my goal was to have it within the month. But yeah. month of June.
I'm sorry if I'm irritating y'all. I've asked this question 10 times in the last 2 months, so I'm just trying to simply get an answer. I'm sorry if I've irritated you.
That question will go through the Public Works Committee.
I've,
Public Works.
Hold on, Alderman Robertson, hold on. Alderman Petrelli, anything else, and I'll come back to you, Alderman Robertson.
so 2 months for the recycling bid to go out. And then, are you going to be tracking our tipping at that point?
We track tipping now, and we track tipping now.
So you'll track it for the reduction. Is there any plan in place for covering the tipping fee instead of just pulling the money out of the general fund? Like, if there was a savings, if there was a change of service and there was savings generated, and my understanding was that some of that would go back towards the citizens, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but that there was still money to be saved, as the mayor has stated in his emails, to go back towards other unidentified projects. Would that money go to reduce and pay for the tipping fee? Can we earmark the money?
That would be entirely up to us.
Yeah, right, but
Yeah.
Boma decides every year that they set the trash fee and what is included in that trash fee. So, so this fiscal year, they decided to only have residents pay a portion of the disposal. But you could, elect to have that entire amount, paid by the trash fee. It's up to the board to decide what that is.
Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. Marshall, after the last meeting, I sent you an email asking several questions, but the first simple one was, I voted against staying at 2 pickups back door because I feel like if we added a 5-year contract, that will stifle our recycling program. At least put it back for 5 years, because it's not like we have a lot of money, we can't pay for roads, but we're going to have 3 trash and recycling pickups.
Right.
And you answered that question. Do you remember how you answered? I don't have the email, and that's why I'm asking you. I'm not trying to set you up.
I believe.
I asked if you agreed with that statement.
What was the statement? I'm sorry, repeat the statement.
If we
one more time.
continue the trash service as we have now,
Yes.
will it stifle our recycling program citywide?
Yeah, I think my response was something to the effect that we'd had to come back before the board for an appropriation for additional money for the recycling program. I think it's something to that effect.
Yeah, it was more closer to that you agree with that it would stifle it, but it's fine.
Yeah.
My whole thing is I don't see us doing recycling citywide if we don't receive a dramatic reduction in cost with our current trash fee. Again, simple math, we can't pave our roads, but we're going to add a major recycling program to the entire city.
Right.
That's not going to happen. We can act like it's going to happen up here, but that's not going to happen. The only way to get that in my eyes is to reduce twice a week to once a week for trash, and then the once a week or once every 2 weeks recycling. It's the same type of service, just 2 different buckets. So I will again vote against the resolution as it stands. I hope other members did the same, change their vote, and go to a once-a-week collection so that then we can have a true citywide recycling program. Thank you.
Alderman Brown. Thank you, Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Marshall can probably do all these questions, but if not, then our trash providers don't go anywhere.
Okay.
And one question leads to another. How are tipping fees assessed?
We have a 5-year contract with Republic for disposal. It's a separate contract completely from collection.
Okay. Maybe I need to ask Republic or Waste Pro. Sorry, Servpro is another whole nother deal. Is tipping fees? What do we need to do to get this right, Mayor? I don't want anybody to have any.
Why don't you ask Marshall
I
first?
want to know how they are billed for a tipping fee.
I think it's the same no matter who has the contract. So Marshall might be the best
right.
person.
We have right now what we have before us is merely collection contracts. We have collection and disposal, and it doesn't matter who collects it. We're going to pay the same amount for disposal for the tipping fees, and so we pay by the ton. It's by the ton, and so Republic has that contract for disposal, and we get an invoice every month based on the tonnage of the trash that we give to the transfer station. So,
I get two bills, one
Right,
for
right.
the pickup and one for the dump.
right.
Okay, okay. The more I talk about trash, the more confused I get. I thought I was where I needed to be the other night, still think I am, but I want to ask 2 or 3 more questions.
Sure.
So it's billed by the pound, basically,
Yes.
okay?
40,
Or ton,
it's almost
in this case,
$45.
tonnage, but
Almost
that's
$45 a ton.
pounds.
Yes, sir.
So 100 pounds of trash at my house, okay, that is disposed of 2 times a week at my back door, right now costs me $293, costs me $293. The same 100 pounds of trash, if I go to once a week service, front or back, doesn't matter, is still going to cost the same amount of money at the dump. Okay, I got some heads doing this and some doing that, so.
At the dump.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because it'd be the amount, regardless of whether it's once a week or twice a week, the amount will.
Poundage is poundage.
Yeah, poundage is poundage.
It'll be the same amount.
Yeah.
So if I lower that poundage by taking my plastics and my other stuff,
Yes,
which Ms. Burns wants me to do,
yes,
and put them in a separate container,
right.
and that lowers my poundage to 60 pounds. That'll lower our tipping fee.
Yes, yes.
But then I have to pay to get recycled
Right,
picked up.
right.
So
That's correct.
the only thing I'm really gaining is I am recycling. Money-wise, it's probably going to be about a wash. Maybe.
Right.
Okay.
There's a little thing in there that we're forgetting.
Okay.
And that is that the longer that we have landfill capacity, the lower our price is going to be. So the more we do send to be recycled, that landfill is going to have more space for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the big difference in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't, I don't know,
No,
we
you're
can't
right.
really debate. That
You're
doesn't
right.
really affect my pocketbook that much,
You're
but
right.
it's a good point.
You're right.
Good point. Okay, so now I think I know how tipping fees are assessed. Who sets the price on those tipping fees? Who decides it costs this much for my 100 pounds?
The Republic Service, we bid this contract out 2-3 years ago, and there was a price set for that tonnage that increases, 3% every year.
So
that's
my waste provider, what you're saying, no matter who that ends up being, will set that price.
No. There's a price for collection.
I understand that.
And that's-
I'm just talking tipping fees.
Yeah, that's gonna stay the same. It is now, that's gonna stay the same for the next 2-3 years. As, it's gonna increase every year, but, I mean, right now, that's not gonna change. If that, I'm
It
not
still
sure.
didn't answer my question. Who sets that price?
Republic Services.
Okay, Republic Services or Waste Pro. I'll give, but you don't set it.
No.
You said
I'm
it.
sorry,
I got one doing this and one doing that.
Republic Services has our collection contract.
Okay.
And our disposal contract.
Okay.
And so the two different bids. And so, Republic has our current disposal contract.
Okay.
And then they set that price.
Okay, this may be a question for you if we're still there?
We're fine. Go ahead.
Still there. Yeah, it probably is. But I also want to be fair to Republic too. I'm just trying to clear my mind a little bit. Everybody else may have it down, but I don't.
No, we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Okay, you pick up my 100 pounds of trash, and you take it to the dump. It's the dump to me. It could be the landfill or whatever it is, but it's still a dump to me. You take it there, and you pay them you don't.
I don't think so. I
No.
believe the way it is right now.
You bill us.
Right. When our truck crossed their scales, we
Yeah.
identify this as Hendersonville trash.
Okay.
Republic in turn will send Hendersonville an invoice. How do they do it? A weekly, bi-weekly, or
Monthly.
month?
You would do the same thing.
No. Your contract will stay in place with Republic, whether Republic picks up the trash or Waste Pro picks up the trash. That piece of who sends you a bill from the dump will
Okay.
stay the same. That will keep coming from Republic. So no matter who collects the garbage, Republic will set your price per ton.
Anybody else understand that? Okay.
Currently, from my understanding, you have two contracts. You got one for picking it up and one for disposing of it.
Okey dokey.
Well, what's on the agenda tonight is collecting it, picking it up at the curb.
Okay.
From my understanding, your disposal
Okay, well, I'm
contract.
still trying to find, I understand that now, I appreciate that. I'm still trying to find out who sets that price for my poundage.
Let me try. We said, we go,
Republic's raising his hand back
They
there.
do.
well, because they won the bid. They won the bid. And so, and that was bid, and you said $45 per ton? Yeah, $40-some per ton,
40-some per ton.
yeah. And they just happened to win both contracts.
Well, that leads to another question. Thank you. Okay. Are those tipping fees, prices adjustable? I mean, in 6 months, if the dump says, we're charging you more money to cross our scales,
No,
the Republic go up.
they're good for a year. And so we just, right now, we're going through the process to, July 1st, the rate will increase, by 3% over what it is now. And so it's going to go up a little bit, but that'll be in place for the next year. And then, of course, the following year, it'll increase again.
So over a 5-year period, it can go up 15-20%?
Yes.
Easily?
Yeah.
Or 4-year period? We're
Yeah,
set for 1 year?
Right.
Okay, I think I understand tipping fees better. I've still got a couple more questions.
You're fine.
Can you split back door and curbside service? If this whoever wants to, let Marshall answer this one.
Yeah, I'll let the vendors.
If this 55-year-old person that lives next door to me wants solely backdoor service, they're not handicapped, they're not my age where they're taking crutches, but they want that service. Can they get that service?
It is not
And you're
something.
going to tell me that it's parameters
Yes.
of what we decide.
It is not something the city asked for in their RFP process. But can it be done? Yes.
Okay,
Why don't we have Jerry answer that question for?
that's fine.
Okay.
No, my only,
Oh,
I'm Jerry Burke.
get up to the microphone if you could, Jerry.
My concern is this, I feel like there's a negotiation going on
Yes, sir.
with another company. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get involved,
Okay.
but it feels like there's a contract negotiation going. The contract has 3% for backdoor service. That's what's in the contract. Whether they'll do more or whether I'll do more, it's not for here. That this was all in the contract, and I would I would appreciate there not be a contract negotiation. That's really the only thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
And if you've got the disposal piece, that's all set by contract. I don't want to, as long as you're good on that, but that's all I wanted to say is,
Well,
I
I
just
just want
feel
you
like
to
we got a
understand, I'm not trying to
negotiation.
negotiate with anybody,
Well,
I'm
no.
trying to understand.
no, not on that piece. I'm talking about some of the questions that are being asked in the answers. I feel like it's kind of being a negotiation going on. There's 4 services that we're all here to discuss and hopefully have a vote on. And everything was in the bid specs. We all bid based on what's in the bid specs. I think any discussion beyond the 3%, that kind of seems to me like it's a negotiation that maybe gives
good.
somebody,
That's a good
you know,
point.
a fair edge or an unfair edge. So that's my only point on that.
Well, hold on one second. Alderman Brown, any other
I
questions?
do
for him?
have, yeah, I
Okay.
do. But
I think he wants to say something.
not really,
Go ahead. If you want to finish answering that question, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Alderman Wilcock, I apologize for getting a little animated, but, and you all finally answered it. When you all started talking about the 20%, in the bid specs, it was 3%. So when you start talking about raising it up 20%, one of you mentioned that starts leading toward the backdoor pricing instead of the curbside pricing. That's why I was getting a little animated, because once you start raising that 3% up, we all bid on 3%, on the 3% allowance, okay? So that's all we're saying.
Okay.
And the thing is, we can provide the 1 time a week's curbside, the 2 time a week curbside, the 1 time a week backdoor, and 2 time a week backdoor. And we can save the city money on any of those options.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that.
Appreciate that. Alderman Brown, any other questions?
I do have one more question of
Okay.
Marshall.
Okay.
And then I have a statement, and I promise I'll not speak any more on this. If you'll allow me to do that.
We will not hold you to that. Go ahead.
Okay. Parameters, qualifying, criteria.
Yes.
I've heard that word several times. I've been asked that. What is the criteria for me to get backdoor service? You know, I've heard being disabled, obviously I'll go back and say, I'm taking prune juice now, so maybe I want backdoor service. What's the criteria for that? It seems like we don't have that set out, and we're driving a truck that we're not sure where we're going because we don't have those parameters set out yet. Do we have those parameters?
Looking at what Gallatin does, they require a doctor's
Not
note.
Gallatin,
Well,
not
right.
Hendersonville.
I'm just
Do we
giving
have
that,
those parameters?
giving that as an example. We don't have the parameters set. It's our discretion what we choose to have, what residents qualify. Whether we set those parameters. Those parameters aren't set yet, but I expect it'd be medical exemptions, disabled. We'd have a list of people that will qualify, and that would be our choosing. But you're right. We don't have a list of those exemptions.
Okay, I'll make my statement. I'll be back.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Marshall. Thank all of you. I put some of you on the spot, but I'm just trying to understand trash. Ms. Burns going to be up here until Jesus comes home talking about trash, so I want to understand it best I can. I know. Here's my first statement. I feel like I'm being pushed for a decision, but I know we're going to be not having trash service here pretty soon, so we've got to make that decision. I don't think I'm the only one who feels like they're being pushed. I feel like I'm being pushed for a decision. I don't feel that we've incorporated a good enough discussion about recyclables. I really don't, and I know there's some people in the audience feel that way. I feel like, we're going to send out an RFP for that in the next few weeks. We're going to get that done. I'm not going to dispute that, but I just feel like we're backing that horse into the door, I think that discussion should have been way out here. I think we should have talked about recycle and trash and disposal several months ago, not just a few months ago. We knew this was coming. We talked about extending it. We didn't do that. And now I feel pressed for a decision. Now, we made one decision at 3:50 in the morning. I can tell you, if it gets to 3:50 in the morning, I won't be voting on this. I don't know. I guess that's just what I feel. I just feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm rushed to a decision. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be handled. I don't know, I do know what I've got with Republic, okay? And I've had problems once in a while, okay? But everybody does. And good references on you guys. I called on you. But I still feel rushed to a decision. I don't care. You could have number 3 and number 4 stand up here. I still feel rushed to a decision. I just don't feel like we did due diligence on the biggest contract this city approves every 5 years. But we've got to vote on it tonight because we got to get trash hauled in July. So I won't say more about it. I'm ready to vote whenever y'all are.
Alderman Robertson. Thank you, Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I've always, in my mind, understood the linkage, because of our budget constraints, the linkage of savings in garbage service and the provision of recycling service. So if you save in one bundle, you can put that money in the other bundle and maybe provide both services. Public Works, several months ago, approved to bid garbage service out. I supported, I made that motion because I have faith in the competitive process. In looking at the numbers, I believe I'm correct that if we do nothing, if we continue with Republic at twice a week, backdoor service, this city's going to save over $100,000 a year. So the competitive process worked in this situation. That's the reason I wanted to do garbage service first, so that we could understand how much money that is potentially saved, so that we can put it toward as expanded recycling service as possible. So we have the funds available. Now I have a process question for Mr. Bradley. It's my understanding we have an amendment that passed, and I understand there can be a substitute amendment. But would it not be cleaner for us just to vote now on the amended motion, yes or no, and then if that fails, then somebody else make a motion?
That's certainly one way you could do it.
Okay,
Voted up or down.
okay,
That's the motion that's on the floor, by the way.
okay. Mr. Marshall, could you come up? And I want, just for the record, this to show, but you've submitted it to all of us. If the residents of this city paid in a surcharge the total cost of garbage service, I think you put down $342 and some change is what they would have to pay on a surcharge.
Yeah, if the entirety of the disposal was included in the fee, it'd be, 340, some odd dollars. Yes, sir.
So is there, I mean, these are your numbers, but
Yes.
it's over $1 million that the general fund pays for garbage service for this citizen. So
Yes.
it's important for the citizens to understand that the charge that they pay for garbage service is not in toto.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Appreciate it, Alderman Robertson. Alderman Bolt.
Yeah, my question, the first one is to Alderman Brown's point about the 3%. I guess about the definition of who gets it. I guess it doesn't really matter that much because it's all bid, and I appreciate the guy from Republic saying that. It's all based on 3%. So if it goes up more than 3%, then we're going to pay for it one way or the other. So I guess this is it's a financial question. I don't know if we're answering this question tonight or not, but, and maybe this goes to you, Mayor, or to you, I don't know. But if we go to once a week curb and we save probably half the money, give or take, where does that savings go exactly? Dollar for dollar.
That'd be entirely up to us. Entirely up to 7 votes here.
Is that decided tonight?
No.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham. Thank you, Alderman Bolt.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few comments and I have a question. First, my first comment is, yes, that's correct. We are supplementing our disposal services to the tune of almost $1 million a year, coming right out of our general fund, the tipping. Based on our 2018 financials, the exact number was $971,315. We could do a lot of good with that money. Second, the Waste Pro I believe in compromise, okay? And it looks like maybe the back door once a week may be a good compromise in this situation, and it negates anybody that has long driveways, steep hills, the elderly, the disabled, and still gives them the benefit of the backdoor service. And we, from what my numbers are telling me, and I have this to memory, we would be saving over $2 million a year. That's a big number. So we could easily incorporate the tipping fees into the actual disposal service on the tax return, on the tax bill, and still be $1 million to the good. And still give the people that require backdoor, we give backdoor 100% to the whole city, but once a week. And I think that might be a good compromise, in my opinion. Now, my demographics in my ward that I represent are different than others. I know definitely half of my ward where I live brings it out to the curb, so that's not a big deal. But the other half of the ward, I'd say half of that half, which is probably represents maybe 20-25%, which is a good, which was a lot of people throwing out that number, are backdoor people. They've been getting it for years. I mean, I lived in this city almost 30 years. I didn't even know we had backdoor until a couple of years ago, because we always hold ours to the curb. But I live in a less than a 20-year-old subdivision too. So, and I did investigate the Waste Pro. So, and you guys have good, good reputation. Republic has given us good service over the years, even though recently we've had a few hiccups. But in my opinion, I think that might be a good compromise for everybody involved. Backdoor once a week. I'm sorry that those numbers are too big for me to ignore. Thank you, Mayor.
You said you had a question?
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Well,
Or we can come back to you?
I forget my question. Okay. I guess it couldn't have been that important.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, my main concern is, just similar to my colleague here, is the driveways on Saunders Ferry, Walton Ferry, Curtis Crossroads, Indian Lake, Maple Street, Cherokee, and other roads that have an 8-foot drop-off. I mean, the driveway and then the drive is down to their yard is a good 8-foot drop on some of them, and it's dangerous. If you talk about Indian Lake Road, like you come home, like set it out in the morning, you leave for work, and they set the can down, during the day it gets blown over, and that's blocking your driveway. You're going to stop in the middle of Indian Lake Road to get out and pick your can up, move it out of the way, so you can just pull in your driveway. This is some of the older neighborhoods of Hendersonville where it's driveway on main road. It's no longer, oh, let's pull into the subdivision, and now we go to our driveways. No. You're like on Saunders, for instance, if it was on Saundersville Road, it'd be 500 attached driveways down through there, which would be a nightmare for those people living down through there. So I'm all in favor for the once a week backdoor pickup as well, just because the funds, but I got to have backdoor pickup available for the people in my ward due to the driveways and the safety issues there. And that hopefully would lead into recycling down the road. So thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. We have a motion to call a question with one person left in the queue. We have a motion to call a question. This needs to pass by a 2/3 vote. I need a second. We have a motion to call a question, a second. Let's see, so for 11 of us, that's 8 of us? It's 8. So if 8 people vote to call the question, we end debate and we go ahead and vote. All those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no and raise your hand.
Yeah, I'll vote no.
Okay. But yeah, just 1, 2, 3.
Colleague wants to speak, I think.
Okay. Did the rest of us vote
I
aye?
apologize.
Oh, hold on.
Who's going to speak?
Sprouse.
I'll withdraw my.
Eddie Robertson. Alderman Robertson, I appreciate it. Okay. Alderman Campbell, thank you for your comments just a second ago. Alderman Strauss?
Thank you. I appreciate the board letting me speak. I did try to cut back my comments when I was told that they were inappropriate previously. One of the things I think we need to address, it's the number that keeps coming up, is we have to be very careful. I've made a pledge. Now, I'm not going to hold y'all to my pledge, but I'm going to hold me to my pledge, that any reduction that the city realizes through savings of the collection fee that we currently pay for as a separate line item on our trash bill, which is not tax deductible, it is not freezable if you're part of the senior citizen tax property freeze. These are completely different. Any savings that we realize, I have pledged to pass directly on to the people who are paying that fee for a cost of service. So by the way we currently calculate it, if we save 20%, I expect my vote is going to be, when we do it the budget, we set the trash fee when we set the tax rate, right after we set the tax rate, it's to reduce it by 20%. Because I think that it's wrong to take money that's paid for a particular service and shift it over for something else. Our brethren from Ward 5, who's not with us, came up with the perfect analogy. He says it's like when the airline says they're not going to lower the fee for the ticket, the airfare, or maybe they'll lower it a little bit, but then they nickel and dime you to death on baggage fees and change fees, and you end up paying more at the end of the day. You're not saving anything. So I think we need to be very careful about that. The other thing I think we need to be very careful about is we bid 4 options, and we have 2 companies that responded to all 4 options. And so we shouldn't necessarily marry ourselves to say that if we want to do twice a week backdoor, it's Republic. If we want to do once a week backdoor or curbside, it's Waste Pro. Because the question's going to be then the quality and the value of the bids. And one thing I'm really concerned about is, we discussed this 3 weeks ago in a meeting, and the concern expressed then was, does a new provider have the opportunity and the time available to ramp up, provide the equipment, provide the staff, and hit the ground running? That was a concern 3 weeks ago. A few weeks prior to that, maybe a month prior to that, at the workshop when this was first discussed, that was a concern. So I think now if we're going to set a level of service, maybe we should set the decision about the level of service independent from the provider doing that level of service. Because if we're talking a point or two or a fraction of a point difference in provider, I want to know value. Because I know in 5 weeks, we're gonna have a different garbage contract. And what's it worth to us to know a provider that we have with equipment, with manpower versus one we don't, and potential hiccups for that? I think that's something that we should consider, possibly even splitting any amendment to where we first set the value, the service level that we want, and then we choose the provider of that service level so that we can evaluate the two prices separately. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. What we have, and we're going to vote on right now, is the amended version of this resolution. And that is that Republic Services will provide the service, it will be a backdoor service, and the collection will be twice a week. If you vote yes, you are choosing those three things. So all those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, please vote no. Okay, go ahead and call roll.
Bolt.
No.
Brown.
Yes.
Campbell.
No.
Cunningham.
No.
Petrelli.
No.
Robertson.
No.
Skidmore.
No.
Sprouse.
Yes.
Waters.
No.
Woodcock.
No.
Clary.
No. That fails 2-9. Alderman Cunningham, were you going to make an amendment?
Yes.
You mentioned it just a second ago.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment for once a week, backdoor, Waste Pro.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Skidmore, do you want to speak on this amendment?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
This pertains not only to the amendment, but as the ordinance as a whole. Marshall, you might want to, as we discussed and in this preparation for tonight, or several weeks ago, what are the, one thing we've always had a problem with our garbage pickup is missed calls or missed pickups within our city. We've had, an astronomical amount, but we've always been able to take care of it. We've always been able to solve that issue.
Right.
But in this contract, and I think the board, and as well as not only the board, but the people of Hendersonville need to realize this as well, our penalty phase this time is a little harsh. It's more harsh this time as opposed to it was years ago. And you might want to explain that to the board as well as the city.
There, in the current contract, there is a penalty clause within the contract, and we've elected, whatever reason, we've never, to my knowledge, we've never enforced that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's based on the number of misses and per month and over certain periods of time. And anyway, but we have very good records indicating how many misses we have, but we've just, for whatever reason, chosen not to enforce that. Now, what we will enforce moving forward is the penalty clause in that contract.
Right.
It's changed a little bit just to make sure it's a little easier to understand and for both the vendor and the city, but that will be that will be enforced. And I will say there will be I think there's a grace period of a couple months at the very beginning.
Well, there is, because, you're right, there is a grace period, but I want the board to know, because this is, once again, as I have said time and time again, this is a very important issue for the city. That this time, our penalty phase is a lot different than what it was in the past, and we had some consistent misses all throughout the city and in all our wards. But this time, we're going, I want to let the board, I want to put, and whoever the hauler is, I want them to be put on notice that, it's fun to come and work with the city of Hendersonville, but we're serious about our garbage pickup.
That's correct, yeah.
And we're going to take those situations that we're having, because we're tired of the calls that we get in Public Works, you know. I mean, gosh, I've literally had to go myself out into the community and pick up people's garbage, and I don't mind doing it. I've done it for 30-something years when people have called me, especially over on Civil Drive, which I love those folks anyway. It gives me a chance to talk shop with them. But anyway, I wanted to let the board know about how, you know, we're serious about that. So in your respective wards, if you start having problems, do not hesitate to call us in Public Works, because, you know, we're going to be keeping a tab on that. And if you all start thinking that it's getting a little bit over and beyond what you're comfortable with, you need to let us know. Thank you.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Just real quick, if this motion is successful, and I intend to vote for it, Mayor, I hope that you will work with the staff so that we have good public information and information that goes out to all of the residents to let them know the change. And so I just wanted to make sure, that's all.
Appreciate that, Alderman Robertson. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, it's already getting late. As I mentioned in my previous talking points about compromise, which is what the senior alderman from Ward 3 articulated, I do want to have a discussion about where the savings is going to go, where any, the funds that go back to the citizen, and then whatever other savings that we have, that it's used in a planned, viable way. And I would also like to see a plan for the tipping fees. I think just pulling the tipping fees out of the general fund every year without a 10-year plan is kind of silly. So, I'd like to make an amendment that we have a future discussion prior to the end of this budget season about where this savings will go specifically, and also about a plan for tipping. Thank you.
We've got is that a motion? Okay, was that a motion, Alderman Petrelli? Okay, we've got a motion.
I'd just like to make sure that we have a viable discussion on the potential savings prior to too much time slipping away.
I think that would, I'm sorry, the budget workshop would be I think that would be
Budget workshop, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to remind my distinguished colleague from Ward 1 that our other distinguished colleague from Ward 2 had mentioned that we were going to have that discussion at our budget workshop, I believe, next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday night?
Is that correct?
Next Tuesday night?
Okay.
Well, that's okay. I've been repeated 3 times already, so I'm just trying to keep up at this point.
Well, it's 10:30. This is not the witching hour yet, man. You got to hang on.
So we have so we have nobody else in the queue. And what we were voting on, the amendment that we made was for Waste Pro to provide backdoor service once a week. So please say aye when your name is called, or please say no when your name is called. We'll call the roll.
Woodcock? Waters? Sprouse? Skidmore? Robertson? Petrelli?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Bolt?
Yes.
Clary?
Aye. That amendment passes 10-1. Now we need to vote on the main motion. We have in front of us Resolution 2019-26, and that is, as we've amended it, Waste Pro backdoor once a week. We just amended, is what we did. I'm being very careful here. So, all those in favor of the amended Resolution 2019-26, please signify by saying aye or yes when Kay calls your name. Those opposed, please say no or nay when Kay calls your name. Go ahead.
Bolt? Brown? Campbell?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Petrelli?
Yes.
Robertson? Skidmore?
Yes.
Sprouse? Waters? Woodcock? Clary?
Aye. That passes 10 to 1. Resolution 2019-26 passes as amendment. Next we have on our agenda, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-11. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 12, Chapter 9, involving our housing code. Alderman Brown? We have a motion and a second.
I do not wish to speak.
Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you very much. I know, is the fire department still here? I wanted to speak to them about, okay.
Yeah, we've got Chief Holt.
How you doing, Chief? Oh, pretty good, buddy. It's good to see you this
Marshall,
evening.
thank you.
It's his birthday, too.
Happy birthday.
Is it your birthday yesterday or today?
Today.
Well, congratulations there, sir. You got big plans this evening? It's 10:30.
Yeah.
All right. I got you. Well, I've got some coffee underneath there if you need it, so just let me know. All right. I brought 3 little packets. I brought 3 packets back here in case I need it, but so far I'm good. It's good to see you and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a quick question. I know we've had some issues dealing with Durham Farms in terms of this change that we're talking about this evening. Has the fire department looked at is this going to cause any kind of effect at all in terms of the estate plots? Obviously, going to be an increase in housing out there. Is that going to cause any kind of something that we might need to?
Alderman Skidmore, hold on one second. You might be, we changed the order of a couple things.
Oh, we have?
We're on item A, which is ordinance 2019-11.
Yeah. You're jumping the gun there, brother.
And it's only 10:30, and I hadn't even had my first cup of coffee.
Let's go get some caffeine.
There you go.
Alderman Holt, please hang on. Or
If you will hang on
Chief Holt,
and
please.
thank you, Mayor. So, and I apologize. That's the first time I've done that.
Chief Holt,
in
you just bought a
ages.
ticket to stay in a little bit later. Thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yeah.
All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2019-11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-16. This is an ordinance to approve the revised preliminary master plan for Durham Farms, which includes a lot reconfiguration and the addition of villa lots to the development located in Drakes Creek Road. Alderman Woodcock, we have a motion and a second. Chief Holt, could you come up? I suspect that we're going to have some
Thank
questions
you very
for
much. And don't ask me to repeat what I said. No,
Alderman
I'm just
Skidmore,
teasing.
go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, is that going to affect in terms of the fire safety or anything like that you all are concerned about?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, Durham Farms is, what is it, estimated 1,200 homes?
Yes, sir.
And all those people, so, like the MTAS study, we really need Station 7.
Okay.
And that's where MTAS was suggesting. Not that Masker Farms doesn't need, also, it's the largest subdivision in the city of Hendersonville.
Right.
But MTAS suggested that 7 went north of the city.
Right.
I mean, north of the bypass.
Right.
At the Durham Farms area.
Okay. So that will probably be a more of a necessary increase to, ma'am? Oh, I thought they were saying something to me. I apologize. So really, in essence, the board needs to really seriously consider the future of building a fire hall out there if this does pass tonight. It'll just show them more of the necessity of that issue.
That's exactly right, Alderman.
Okay.
With it being at 1,200 homes, approximate from the original plan, MTAS said that 7 needs to go there, our next fire station needs to go in that area, and if we're increasing the amount of homes, then that would just, it would just be logical that we would need a more of a push to get 7 out there as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments
sir.
on that. All right.
Alderman Skidmore, anything else?
No, sir, that's it. Thank
Alderman
you.
Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. Keith, you don't have to go up there. You can just shake your head yes or no. The parks that are being added, are those new additions to the green space requirement, or are they moving their green space to these new park locations?
Why don't you come on up?
Sorry, Keith, I thought it was going to be a yes, no.
Yeah, it is a net increase from the overall development. I think maybe some of these might already been in open space. the dog park and the veterans.
Overall, we've increased our.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, overall, it's increasing the open space with the configuration with the lots.
Thank you.
Yes.
All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2019-16, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no.
No.
Alderman Skidmore? Anyone else? That passes 10-1. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-17. This is an ordinance appropriating $86,403.68 of reimbursed Tennessee Department of Transportation funds to the Saundersville Road Local Interchange Connector Project. Alderman Skidmore.
So move.
Oh, not this one. We can get there. Alderman Skidmore makes a motion, and we have a second. I have an amendment that y'all received an email about this, and Marshall, I hope you're still here. What we had is we have a company that's working on putting together the grant application for us. We had hoped that we would have had money available in our budget. The price tag got a little bit higher than we anticipated. The money's not there. Now is the time to appropriate that money. If this works out, our $55,000, as well as some other money we've already spent with them, could pay for the whole construction of the project. Did I say anything out of line?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so so I have a motion to amend. Alderman Woodcock, did you second that? To add $55,000. Alderman Skidmore, on the amendment?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I normally would object, just as chairman of Public Works, I would normally object because this has not come before Public Works Committee. But I got to tell you, this is important. This is what the mayor has stated is accurate and to the point. And so I would ask the indulgence of the Public Works Committee, after I've had researched and looked into this and made some calls, that it's paramount that we pass this tonight, because it may very well save us a lot of time and money in the future. So I would just want to let the board know that normally it does not. We always have that issue of things coming before committee, but this one is pretty important. So, thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. All those in favor of the amendment of adding $55,000 to this, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2019-17 as amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Alderman Woodcock.
Move to group items E, F, G, H. Second.
Let's do EFGH if you wouldn't mind. A motion to group EFGH under ordinance and resolutions. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of grouping items EFGH under ordinance and resolutions, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. All those in favor of Resolution 2019-18, a resolution to apply for a Meet Me at the Park Play Spaces grant, and Resolution 2019-19, a resolution to apply for a Dog Park Dash grant, and Resolution 2019-20, a resolution to apply for a Pet Safe Bark for Your Park grant, and Resolution 2019-25, a resolution to apply for a Memorial Foundation grant. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Those pass unanimously. Alderman Woodcock. Next, we have vote on appointment of Paul Guthrie for Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals.
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Skidmore, a second from Alderman Petrelli. All those in favor of appointing Paul Guthrie to serve on the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. We're adjourned. Thank you.